Chapter 4091. There were 3 shortcuts in the Jade Slip that Lurinjue gave Zhuowen. When Zhuowen had first set off, he had released 3 divine ships and traveled along 3 different shortcuts. Even a cunning rabbit had 3 burrows. Naturally, Zhuowen had made many preparations so that he would not be caught off guard if the guardians of the 3 clans caught up to him. The second shortcut was a boundless green divine lake. The divine boat sped across the divine lake. Whoosh, whoosh. On the deck of the second divine ship, streaks of white light lit up. The white light faded away, revealing a group of people. They were the Huxley clan. We're fine. Where's this? Everyone looked around and realized that they were still on the divine ship. Furthermore, this divine ship was completely undamaged. They all revealed expressions of joy, as if they had just survived a calamity. Sa-mei and Tua Sheng also appeared on the deck. They looked around and immediately recognized that this was the second shortcut to leave the Hushi region. Did Senior Marshal Brother Zhua predict that something like this would happen? So he prepared a backup plan. Sa-mei and Ta Sheng looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. What kind of observation and meticulous mind did one need to be in order to be able to think so thoroughly in the process of escaping? The 2 of them were even more in awe and admiration of Zhuowen. Zhuowen and Shan Lingyun were the last to appear on the deck of the ship. Under the respectful gazes of the Hushu people, the 2 of them immediately came to the bow of the ship. This is the Lake of Blood Jade, and it leads to another remote border of Hushu region. So long as you leave the Lake of Blood Jade, you'll basically arrive at the border of Hushu City. Shan Lingyun stood at the bow of the ship, surveyed the surroundings, and hit the nail on the head. My speed is too slow. I have to speed up. Otherwise, Saika Hongfei will catch up to me. Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy as he started to gather all the god power in his body and channeled it into the array formation on the surface of the divine ship. At the same time, Zhuowen also called on everyone on the deck to channel their god power into the surrounding spell formations and work together to increase the speed of the divine ship. Naturally, no one would refuse. With everyone's help, the array on the surface of the divine ship shone with an even brighter light. Moreover, the formation gathered everyone's divine power and gathered it at the tail of the divine ship. Then it released an extremely dazzling exhaust. After that, the divine ship was like a ferocious tiger that had been released from its cage. Its speed suddenly increased by several times. Wherever it passed, even its afterimage could not be distinguished. One could only vaguely see the long, gorgeous tail of the ship. Not long after, the divine ship rushed out of the Jade Blood Divine Lake. At the end of the Jade Blood Lake, there was a huge stone arch. In front of the stone arch stood a pure, white divine pillar. On the divine pillar, the words Hushu Realm were engraved. Everyone knew that this was one of the borders of the Hushu Realm. However, what caused everyone's expressions to turn ugly was that there were numerous figures floating in the air behind the stone arch, as if they were waiting for something. These figures were all wearing golden battle suits with a special symbol of a golden water droplet on them. It's the Jinshui clan. As expected, the 3 great clans have prepared a backup plan. They have already sent a group of people to wait here. Shan Lingyun said with a frown. On the other side, when Zhuowen's divine ship appeared, the cultivators of the Jinshui clan, who had been waiting for a long time, flew into the air as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Each of them released their powerful auras. There were more than 1,000 cultivators of the Jinshui clan waiting here, and none of them were weak. The leader was a middle-aged man with an aquiline nose. He had the strongest cultivation in this group, but he was only at the early stage of the ancient star transformation realm. It should be known that the most elite experts of the 3 great clans had basically been brought into the Hushu Divine City by the 3 great clan leaders. It could be said that they had all been wiped out. As for the remaining cultivators who were waiting here, their overall strength was naturally far inferior to the elite experts brought by the 3 great clan leaders. Their main mission was only to catch the fish that had escaped Huxley's net. Unfortunately, they did not manage to catch the fish. Instead, they caught a shark that was powerful enough to kill them. I after waiting for so long. The heavens really do not disappoint those who wait. Finally, a fish that escaped the net has appeared. You must all be ordinary members of Huxley's clan, right? You are not likely to be our match. If you disembark and surrender now, you may have a chance to live. Otherwise, don't blame me for... The aquiline nose man grinned and stood at the front of the group. He held a large saber in his hand and pointed arrogantly at Zhuowen and the others. However, before he could finish speaking, an incomparably huge star suddenly fell from the sky and ruthlessly smashed into the aquiline nose man's body. Splat! The aquiline nose man spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying by the star. He only had time to scream before his body could not withstand the terrifying power of the star and was torn to pieces. His soul was even more miserable. He did not even have the chance to leave his body before disappearing into thin air. Don't be so long-winded and annoying. Anyone who dares to block my path will die. Zhuowen merely raised a hand and casually condensed a single star to destroy the aquiline nose man. The people who were originally prepared to have a big fight with the hook-nosed man had just been stirred up by the hook-nosed man's words when they saw the scene of the hook-nosed man being killed in one move. The whole scene fell into a strange silence. All of you come with me. The space in Zhuowen's right hand changed slightly, and numerous enormous stars appeared out of thin air. Then, these stars began to charge into the group without any trace and began to crush them with overwhelming power. Miserable shrieks rang out one after another. Under the attacks of these stars, this troop of several thousand people was utterly defeated, crying for their fathers and mothers. In less than 3 breaths of time, this group was completely wiped out. Not a single person survived. Zhuowen was expressionless. After destroying the Jin Shui clan's group in a short period of time, he continued to drive the divine ship to the distance at lightning speed. But not long after, Shan Lingyun, who was standing beside Zhuowen, tightly grasped Zhuowen's arm and said in a trembling voice, "Disciple, he caught up again." Zhuowen took a deep breath, and his eyes became colder and colder. He naturally knew who Shan Lingyun was talking about. It was Psycho Hongfei. Is the range of the divine sense of the great carefree realm so large? Our divine ship has already escaped out of the Heshu region. How could he still detect it? Zhuowen said in shock and anger. The range of the divine sense of the great carefree realm is far from what the heaven-breaking realm can compare to. Ancestor once said that the range of the divine sense of the weakest great carefree realm, the early stage of the great carefree realm, is at least as vast as a realm. Chapter 4092. Psycho Hongfei should be in the middle stage of the Qian Kuan Great Tribulation. His divine sense should only cover a region. As long as we can't get rid of him by at least a region, we will never be able to get rid of him. When said with a frown, Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng smiled bitterly and nodded. Zhuowen was deep in thought. There was a tinge of hesitation in his eyes. Boom! Suddenly, the godly ship shook violently as if it had been hit by a heavy blow. Its speed also decreased sharply as if it was being pulled by some force. Little things, you won't be able to escape from me. No matter where you go or how fast you run, you won't be able to escape. I will still be able to catch you. Kikik, don't waste your time. Psycho Hongfei's eerie voice came from behind the godly ship. He had caught up with the second godly ship and had it firmly under his control. Sa Mei, Tuo Sheng passed down the order. Use the teleportation formation disc again and teleport to the third godly ship. Zhuowen ordered calmly. Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng were so scared that their faces turned pale. Sa Mei said bitterly, "Senior brother Zhuo, we won't be able to escape. Psycho Hongfei is too powerful. His divine sense is too wide. We won't be able to escape from him. Hurry up and go." Zhuowen berated. Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng lowered their heads. However, they were not slow as they passed down Zhuowen's order. Very quickly, the deck lit up with beams of teleportation light. The Hushu tribesmen who had received the order crushed the second teleportation formation disc without hesitation. After a while, Most of the Hushu tribesmen had been teleported away. Only Zhuowen, Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and Tu Sheng were left on the godly ship. D***M teleportation formation again. Cunning ants, you are too despicable. Saiku Hongfei, who was chasing behind, immediately noticed the teleportation light on the godly ship. He could not help but be furious. Without hesitation, he slammed his palm on the godly ship. The godly ship could not withstand such a terrifying attack and started to crumble. It could not hold on for much longer. Disciple, let's go. Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and Ta Sheng also took out their teleportation formation discs and activated them. When the white light enveloped them, they realized that Zhuowen had not used a teleportation array. Disciple, you. Shan Lingyun stared at Zhuowen. Her eyes were filled with doubt and confusion. If we continue to run like this, we will eventually be caught. If we can't completely shake off Psycho Hongfei, our escape will be in vain. Only one of you can stall him, and buy time for all of you to successfully escape. Zhuowen said softly with a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. The doubt in Shan Lingyun's eyes disappeared and was replaced by disbelief and tears. No, Shan Lingyun used all her strength to shout this sentence, but it was eventually drowned out by the teleportation radiance. Zhuowen stood quietly on the ship, ignoring the ship that was about to shatter. His gaze suddenly turned sharp. Through the countless cracks, he coldly looked at the figure outside the ship. Saiku Hongfei, let me see how strong an expert of the great carefree realm is. As Zhuowen muttered to himself, the divine ship finally collapsed and was annihilated. Not far behind the godly ship, a shadow slowly appeared. Finally, it shrank and turned into a gray-haired boy. He was Saiku Hongfei, who was chasing after them. Saiku Hongfei's face was gloomy. This was the second time he had been shaken off. To think that he, the guardian of the Goldwater region and an expert of the great calamity of heaven and earth, was chasing after a group of ants who had not even reached the ancient star transformation realm. They had successfully escaped twice. If others knew about this, he would lose his face. Saiku Hongfei, who was about to leave, suddenly frowned. He waved his sleeve and pushed back a natal lone star that was flying behind him. Saiku Hongfei slowly turned around and saw that not far from where the godly ship had been destroyed, a young man was faintly floating and staring at him with a sharp gaze. Who are you? A puny, early-stage, ancient star transformation realm cultivator actually didn't leave and stayed here to wait for death? Saiku Hongfei raised his eyebrows and looked at Zhuowen mockingly. After discovering that Zhuowen was only at the early stage of the ancient star transformation realm, there was a trace of contempt in the depths of his eyes. He did not take Zhuowen seriously at all. I'm sorry, I didn't stay to wait for death. I was waiting for you, Zhuowen said indifferently. He carefully sized up Saiku Hongfei and was even more certain in his heart. Although Saiku Hongfei looked fine, he could acutely sense that Saiku Hongfei's aura was extremely weak. Compared to when he first appeared, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. Moreover, the surface of Saiku Hongfei's body was covered in cracks. These cracks were like tattoos and seemed difficult to erase. Obviously, it was not that Saiku Hongfei did not want to erase these cracks, but that he did not have the strength to do so. There was no doubt that Saiku Hongfei's injuries in the battle with Lu Yuanba were more serious than Zhuowen had imagined. Zhuowen knew that he could fight this battle. Of course, this was also because Zhuowen guessed that Saiku Hongfei was seriously injured, so he took the risk to stay and stall for time with Saiku Hongfei. Otherwise, if Saiku Hongfei had chased after him in his peak state, Zhuowen would have turned around and left without a second thought. He would not have fought him head-on. Waiting for me? Saiku Hongfei was stunned. Then he sneered. Are you waiting for me to kill you? No, I'm waiting for you to be killed by me. The power of Ancestor Lu's self-destruction must not be pleasant, right? How much strength can you use now? Zhuowen said indifferently. Saiku Hongfei was unable to restrain his anger. He stared fixedly at Zhuowen and said in a low voice, Are you mocking me? Are you not worthy of being mocked? Zhuowen laughed. You're courting death. Psycho Hongfei was furious. He suddenly released the shadowless shattering domain. Like an invisible shadow, he flew out and attacked Zhuowen. The moment the shadowless shattering domain enveloped Zhuowen, Zhuowen immediately felt his body tremble. A vast power seemed to be pulling him tightly. However, Zhuowen relaxed because the shadowless shatter domain that Psycho Hongfei released this time was much weaker than the shadowless shatter domain that he had experienced the first time in Absolute Divine Hall. Break for me. Zhuowen did not hide his aura. Like an erupting volcano, his aura surged into the sky. Then, around his body, natal lone stars appeared out of thin air. They revolved around Zhuowen in a strange, oval trajectory, forming a powerful stellar domain around him. The stellar domain bloomed with brilliant starlight and burst out with terrifying stellar energy. It actually resisted Psycho Hongfei's shadowless, shattering domain. Chapter 4093. In the sky above the boundless mountain range, two figures were facing each other proudly. One of them was surrounded by many stars, which revolved around him in different orbits, forming an extremely terrifying starry domain. The other figure was surrounded by endless shadows, which seemed to spread endlessly, filled with an aura of terror and despair. The starry domain and the shadow domain collided, erupting with dazzling aftershocks. As for the endless mountain ranges below, they were unable to withstand the energy from the collision of the two forces and collapsed one after another, turning into ruins. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief, finally completely relieved. Psycho Hongfei was indeed severely injured, and his strength had decreased greatly. The shadowless shattered domain, which had caused him to be in a sorry state, did not pose much of a threat to him now. Zhuowen knew very well that this was mainly because he had just advanced to the ancient star transformation and his strength had increased greatly, and Psycho Hongfei's injuries were too severe. "Who are you?" Psycho Hongfei frowned slightly as he looked at Zhuowen, feeling more and more shocked. Although his strength had decreased greatly due to his injuries, he was still much stronger than a peak ancient star transformation cultivator. But now, this young man in front of him had just advanced to the ancient star transformation, and yet he was able to block his shadowless shattered domain, which made him feel extremely incredulous. In particular, Zhuowen's numerous natal lone stars completely shocked Psycho Hongfei. This was not something an ordinary ancient star transformation cultivator could do. At this moment, Psycho Hongfei thought of many things. He looked at Zhuowen seriously, subconsciously thinking that the latter was very likely from one of the top 5 invincible domains in the 100 domains of the Outer Realm. The 100 domains of the Outer Realm had a total of 108 domains, which are naturally divided into different grades and grades. A powerful domain could casually destroy several weak domains with a wave of their hand. According to the grades of domains, there were 5 grades: low, medium, high, supreme, and invincible. The Goldwater domain guarded by Psycho Hongfei, the Divine Eye domain guarded by Zhu Yangqi, and the Purple Illusion domain guarded by Ling Xinghai were all low-grade domains, which were ranked at the bottom of the 100 domains of the Outer Realm. Naturally, the Hushu realm that they had joined forces to attack was also a low-level realm just like them. The highest level of invincible realm was an invincible existence in the entire 100 outer domains. Each of these realms was a colossus that could wipe out most of the living beings in the 100 domains. They were the true holy lands of the 100 domains. In Psycho Hongfei's eyes, Zhuowen's ancient star transformation was already so powerful. In addition, his life star was too strange and powerful. Subconsciously, he thought that this person was definitely a genius from a powerful domain, and his heart was filled with dread. Zhuowen naturally didn't know that Psycho Hongfei had thought so much in the blink of an eye. He looked at Psycho Hongfei indifferently and said in a low voice, "You don't have the right to know my name?" Psycho Hongfei was furious, but he became even more vigilant. The more arrogant Zhuowen was, the more convinced he was of his conjecture. Therefore, although he was angry, he still did not attack again. With Fellow's talent and strength, you must not be one of Huxley's people, right? Psycho Hong Fei asked carelessly. Zhuowen showed a trace of surprise. He didn't think that Psycho Hong Fei, who had never seen him before, would be able to tell that he wasn't one of Huxley's people. Psycho Hong Fei's observation skills were excellent, and he immediately saw the flash of surprise on Zhuowen's face. He became even more convinced of his conjecture. Fellow, if you're not one of Huxley's people, you don't have to stand up for them. This was simply a thankless task. If Fellow is willing to leave, I will not attack you again. Psycho Hong Fei said. Zhuowen's expression was strange. What was going on with Psycho Hong Fei? Just a moment ago, he was shouting at him and glaring at him angrily. Why did he suddenly change his personality and become so easy to talk to? How could Zhuowen know that Psycho Hong Fei was not afraid of Zhuowen, but was thinking too much? He thought that Zhuowen's background was extraordinary, and before he found out the truth, he was not willing to completely offend Zhuowen. Zhuowen, on the other hand, deliberately revealed a contemplative expression, but did not speak. His original goal was to delay Psycho Hong Fei and allow the Huxley's people to escape the range of Psycho Hong Fei's consciousness as soon as possible. Now that there was such a great opportunity, he naturally had to make good use of it. Moreover, he really did not want to fight Psycho Hong Fei. After all, Psycho Hong Fei was a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. Even if he was seriously injured, he was still very difficult to deal with. Zhuowen did not have much of a chance of winning. Fellow, have you thought it through? Psycho Hong Fei furrowed his brows and asked impatiently. He had naturally thought of Zhuowen's little trick. Hence, he urged Zhuowen. Haha, sorry, I still can't leave. That's because there's someone very important to me in that group of people. Therefore, your suggestion, I won't accept it. Zhuowen said slowly. Psycho Hong Fei's expression turned completely cold. He had already given Zhuowen enough face, but this guy did not give him any. Since this was the case, even if this person's background was great, he could not tolerate it. At worst, after killing this person, he would destroy the evidence and destroy the corpse. Even if this person's background was extraordinary, the faction behind him might not be able to trace it back to him. Thinking of this, Psycho Hong Fei's eyes were filled with killing intent. If that's the case, then go to hell. Psycho Hong Fei's shadowless, shattering domain suddenly exploded with terrifying power. Then, the space inside the domain collapsed inch by inch, and a powerful force erupted. The stalemate between the two domains was completely broken. Zhuowen's astral domain began to be completely suppressed by the shadowless, shattering domain, and it kept shrinking and retreating. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He did not expect Psycho Hong Fei's shadowless, shattering domain to suddenly become so powerful. At the same time, when the shadowless, shattering domain suddenly became stronger, Psycho Hong Fei also made his move. He shot over like a bolt of lightning and rushed into Zhuowen's astral domain in the blink of an eye. Boom, boom, boom. When Psycho Hong Fei charged into the starry domain, the stars within the domain shot towards him like meteors. Psycho Hong Fei's expression was calm. His hands were like the sharpest weapons in the world. Palm after palm, he blasted away all the stars that were coming at him from all directions. Chapter 4094. Psycho Hong Fei clenched his right hand into a fist and punched toward Zhuowen's face like a rainbow, piercing through the sun. Terrifying energy rippled out like ripples in water. With Psycho Hong Fei as the center, the ripples spread out in all directions, becoming denser and more powerful. Zhuowen's expression was grave as he cursed in his heart. Psycho Hong Fei hadn't used his full strength earlier, causing Zhuowen to misjudge Psycho Hong Fei's strength. However, Zhuowen didn't panic. Instead, he took out a purple-gold divine sword and slashed out hundreds and thousands of sword rays in an instant. Every sword ray seemed to be able to split open the heavens and earth. Its power was immense and terrifying. At the same time, Zhuowen's fingers moved like a zither player plucking the strings of a zither. He was constantly plucking the strings in the air as he laid out a formation. As Zhuowen continued to form seals, dense formation runes condensed in front of him, forming a dense defense like a spiderweb. Boom, boom, boom. After Zhuowen finished forming the seals, Saiku Hongfei's attack arrived. Although Zhuowen's sword rays were powerful and terrifying, they didn't have any advantage in front of Saiku Hongfei. Saiku Hongfei's fist, which was as heavy as a mountain, smashed dozens of sword rays into smithereens. Then, Saiku Hongfei's fists rapidly swung out like meteors. His entire body was like a phantom as he shuttled through the sword rays. Every time he shuttled through the sword rays, he would shatter dozens of sword rays. In a short while, the hundreds and thousands of sword rays Zhuowen had unleashed were all annihilated by Saiku Hongfei. After completely annihilating the sword rays, Saiku Hongfei finally appeared in front of Zhuowen. On the other hand, he finally noticed that numerous extremely powerful grand formations have been set up around Zhuowen since an unknown period of time. The moment he approached the formation runes, countless formation runes seemed to have a chain reaction. They shook violently and produced a powerful binding force that bound Saiku Hongfei's limbs. Saiku Hongfei's speed instantly slowed down as if he was moving in slow motion. Zhuowen grasped this opportunity and suddenly stabbed out with the violet gold divine sword, aiming for Saiku Hongfei's heart. Saiku Hongfei's expression changed drastically. He clearly didn't expect Zhuowen to have set up an invisible formation around him. He was caught off guard and fell for it. What's more, he found that this was a half-step eternal rank array. If he was at his peak, such a formation wouldn't pose any threat to him. But now, he had been careless, and his strength had plummeted. Thus, he was still affected by the formation. Although the formation could only affect him for 3 breaths of time, these 3 breaths of time were more than enough for Zhuowen. Swoosh! A beam of sword light flashed and instantly swept towards Saiku Hongfei's vital point. Saiku Hongfei was very smart. In a life-and-death situation, he forcefully shifted his body, and the sword light finally landed on his right arm. Puffed! Saiku Hongfei's right arm was severed at the shoulder. Divine blood splattered everywhere as the severed arm was sent flying. The moment Saiku Hongfei's right arm was severed, he finally broke free from the formation's restraint and quickly retreated. At the same time, he tried to snatch his severed arm back as he retreated. Unfortunately, Zhuowen's reaction was faster than his. Before he made his move, he shook his right hand and endless sword light shot up into the sky and shredded the severed arm into pieces. Little bastard, you're courting death. Saiku Hongfei's eyes were scarlet. He was completely enraged. He never thought that he would suffer such a great loss at the hands of Gu Xingbian. If news of this spread, he would be ridiculed by everyone. Zhuowen looked at Saiku Hongfei coldly. Although Saiku Hongfei was still very strong, he wasn't afraid. This was because he could see that Saiku Hongfei hadn't released his most powerful universe world from the beginning. This meant that in the battle with Lu Yuanba, Saiku Hongfei's universe world was very likely damaged and couldn't be used at all. For a great carefree realm expert, being unable to use his universe world was equivalent to an ordinary person losing both arms. His strength would be greatly reduced. Saiku Hongfei, your defeat is certain. Zhuowen's right foot stomped on the air and flew towards Saiku Hongfei again. This time, his Abijna and Formation Dao were side by side. He wanted to completely defeat Saiku Hongfei. However, he didn't notice that Saiku Hongfei's expression had suddenly calmed down. He no longer looked flustered and exasperated. Then, Zhuowen saw Saiku Hongfei take out a treasured wheel from his spirit ring. The ring of this treasure wheel was made up of all kinds of ferocious, strange beasts. They came in all shapes and sizes and looked very strange. You forced me to use the demon wheel. Little bastard, you will die today, even if you don't. After taking out this strange wheel, Saiku Hongfei's expression became extremely ugly. This demon wheel was a fragment of a rank 7 astral weapon. It was the highest level weapon of the Jinshui clan. Saiku Hongfei had always kept it. Logically speaking, Saiku Hongfei didn't really want to use the demon wheel, because the weapon spirit of this astral weapon was too evil and greedy. In order to feed this astral weapon, Psycho Hongfei had to sacrifice millions of creatures almost every month for this astral weapon spirit to eat. The Jin Shui clan did have a lot of creatures, but the demon wheel's weapon spirit's appetite was too big. Even though Psycho Hongfei was a domain guardian, he still couldn't bear it. Moreover, every time the demon wheel was used, the weapon spirit would ask for a sky-high price to extort more creatures. This was the main reason why Psycho Hongfei didn't want to use this astral weapon. Kakik, Psycho Hongfei, are you finally going to use the seed again? An extremely evil voice came from the evil ghost demonic wheel. Then, an extremely rich purple-black light emerged from the evil ghost demonic wheel. This beam of light was too evil. It made people feel cold and uncomfortable just by looking at it. Psycho Hongfei didn't answer, but his expression became unnatural. Let's make it clear. Sacrifice 5 million creatures, and this seed will help you once. This seed has already given you a discount. The evil voice came from the demon wheel again. Okay, as long as you help me kill that kid. Psycho Hongfei gnashed his teeth in hatred. He could only swallow his anger in the face of the weapon spirit's exorbitant demand. Not far away, Zhuowen looked as if he was facing a great enemy. He frowned as he looked at the demon wheel that Psycho Hongfei took out. He felt an extremely uncomfortable sense of threat from that thing. What a powerful aura. Could it be a rank 7 astral weapon fragment? Zhuowen stared at the demon wheel. He could clearly feel the aura of an astral weapon from it, and it was much stronger than the purple gold divine sword in his hand. This demon wheel was very likely a rank 7 astral weapon fragment that was at a higher level than the purple gold divine sword. Chapter 4095. Kakik. He's just an early ancient star transformation realm ant, yet you still want to use me? Aren't you using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? On the surface of the evil ghost demonic wheel, a pair of strange red eyes stared coldly at Zhuowen from the depths of the black aura, especially when he found that Zhuowen's aura was not very strong. His eyes were filled with a strange light. Psycho Hongfei's face was gloomy as he said coldly, "Don't underestimate this kid. His strength is far beyond the ordinary ancient star transformation realm experts. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been unable to take him down. Of course, if I wasn't injured, no matter how strong this kid is, he would have been a corpse by now." The evil ghost demonic will no longer spoke. The moment he was summoned by Psycho Hongfei, he felt that Psycho Hongfei's aura was extremely weak, and he was severely injured. I'll lend you my power. Remember your promise. I need 8 million lives. The evil ghost demonic will said coldly. What? Didn't you say it was 5 million? Psycho Hongfei was furious. That was then. This is now. If you don't want to, I won't force you. However, you don't want to use my power either. The evil ghost demonic wheel laughed sinisterly. Psycho Hongfei was so angry that his whole body trembled. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, I agree. Hee, that's more like it." The evil ghost demonic wheel laughed disdainfully and no longer made any sound. However, the evil energy that surged out of his body became even stronger and more terrifying. "Little bastard, I'll kill you today." Psycho Hongfei looked at Zhuowen with bloodshot eyes. He vented all the anger in his chest on Zhuowen. If it weren't for this kid, he wouldn't have been tricked so miserably by the evil ghost demonic wheel. Whoosh! Psycho Hongfei's right foot stepped on the void and shot out like an arrow towards Zhuowen. The evil ghost demonic wheel continued to revolve around his body. Terrifying black fog surged and condensed around Psycho Hongfei's body, forming an extremely hard armor. Zhuowen's gaze was serious. He did not dare to be careless. He held the purple gold divine sword in his right hand and slashed out with all his might. Streaks of sword light whizzed out, forming a boundless sea of swords in the sky. At the same time, all 10 of Zhuowen's fingers moved as he unleashed his lifetime's worth of knowledge. Lines after lines of terrifyingly complex runes surged out and shot up into the sky. The ocean of swords combined with the complex formation patterns to form a terrifying formation with the sword light as the foundation. In an instant, its power reached its peak. Sword shaking the 9 heavens. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. This was a technique that he had created himself. It was an extremely powerful technique that combined the array way and the way of the sword. The power of the sword shaking the 9 heavens was naturally much stronger than the one line of primordial heaven and earth. However, what made Zhuowen's expression turn ugly was that Psycho Hongfei's speed did not decrease at all despite being enveloped by the black fog. Like a wild beast, he directly charged into the sword shaking the 9 heavens. What made Zhuowen even more incredulous was that Psycho Hongfei was able to move freely through the ocean of swords. The endless sword light combined with the formation pattern's power was like endless lightning that struck Psycho Hongfei's body. However, it did not cause any harm to him. This terrifying power was basically blocked by the strange black fog around Psycho Hongfei's body. Damn it, this evil ghost demonic wheel is actually so terrifying. Zhuowen's expression turned ugly. Even though there was only a single rank difference between a rank 6 astral weapon and a rank 7 astral weapon, the difference in power was like heaven and earth. As Psycho Hongfei continued to approach him, he could clearly feel that the purple gold divine sword in his right hand was trembling violently. It was as if it was afraid of the evil ghost demonic wheel approaching. Zhuowen knew that if the purple gold divine sword clashed with the evil ghost demonic wheel, the purple gold divine sword would very likely be destroyed in the end. Do I have to use that thing again? Zhuowen frowned slightly. He knew that the only thing that could resist the evil ghost demonic wheel was the Grand Emperor's seal. However, the Grand Emperor's seal was simply too domineering. Every time he used it, it would suck his energy dry. If he could not defeat the enemy in one move, Zhuowen would not be willing to use the Grand Emperor's seal. Boom! Just as Zhuowen was thinking of a countermeasure, the ocean of swords completely collapsed. Psycho Hongfei's cold aura fell towards Zhuowen. Little bastard, you're dead meat. Psycho Hongfei's cold voice reverberated in the sky. It was as if the heavens were descending. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with decisiveness. He knew that now was not the time to hesitate. At this point, the only way for him to escape this calamity was to use the Grand Emperor's seal. Just as Zhuowen was about to put away the purple gold divine sword and take out the Grand Emperor's seal, his expression changed drastically and his body shook. This is my calamity? Zhuowen suddenly raised his head and looked into the depths of the chaotic void. There, he discovered that a terrifying calamity was constantly brewing and flashing, as if it would descend at any moment. Whoosh! A strong wind whistled, as if it was right in front of him. He saw that Psycho Hongfei was not far away from him. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He executed the primordial chaos body technique to the extreme and turned into an illusory purple shadow. He dodged Psycho Hongfei's attacks, while patiently waiting for the calamity to descend. Psycho Hongfei naturally sensed Zhuowen's intentions. In fact, when the calamity had started brewing, he had already noticed the calamity energy in the depths of the void. However, he did not take it to heart. Hee, how foolish. Do you think a mere calamity of the ancient star transformation can be your trump card? A calamity of this level is like scratching an itch to me. It's not worth mentioning. Psycho Hongfei sneered disdainfully. He did not take Zhuowen's calamity seriously at all. Instead, his attacks became fiercer and fiercer. He wanted to kill Zhuowen as soon as possible. Although Zhuowen tried his best to dodge and use various array formations to obstruct Psycho Hongfei, he was still hit several times by Psycho Hongfei's attacks. More and more injuries appeared on his body. Rumble. Suddenly, the calamities in the depths of the chaotic void finally reached a mature stage. With a thunderous explosion, an extremely fierce and terrifying white lightning fell from the depths of the void. It rapidly struck towards Psycho Hongfei and Zhuowen. Hmm? This calamity seems to be quite powerful. Psycho Hongfei frowned slightly. He could acutely sense that Zhuowen's calamity seemed to be much more powerful than the calamities of other ancient star transformation cultivators. However, he did not care too much. No matter how powerful this calamity was, it was still a calamity of the ancient star transformation cultivators. Psycho Hongfei waved his hand, and a gust of black gas shot out from his palm and blasted towards the white lightning. The black gas and the white lightning tangled for a long time before the white lightning was finally annihilated. Chapter 4096. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Psycho Hongfei was about to continue attacking Zhuowen, a bolt of white lightning descended from the depths of the void, followed by the sound of thunder. Then, under the shocked gazes of Zhuowen and Psycho Hongfei, numerous bolts of white lightning fell from the void. There were simply too many white lightning bolts, and they were too dense. They streaked across the sky and lined up one after another, forming a rectangular hell of white lightning. What? Why are there so many of them? Psycho Hongfei's expression changed drastically. He no longer cared about chasing after Zhuowen. Instead, he used his movement technique to the best of his ability and retreated rapidly. Just now, that bolt of white lightning had already been difficult for him to deal with. Now that so many bolts of white lightning were descending, no matter how confident he was, he knew that he would not be able to withstand them. Therefore, Psycho Hongfei decided to temporarily retreat from the range of the calamity so that he would not be at a disadvantage. He would wait for Zhuowen to pass the calamity. Then he would take advantage of the opportunity to kill Zhuowen in one fell swoop. However, just as Psycho Hongfei was about to leave the range of the calamity, extremely terrifying runes suddenly surged around him. These runes rushed over like a flood, instantly pushing Psycho Hongfei back into the dense hell of white lightning. Old dog Psycho, do you think you can just leave after beating me up? Why don't you stay and accompany me? Zhuowen's sinister voice rang out. Then, Psycho Hongfei's expression turned ugly as he discovered that Zhuowen had appeared at the edge of the white lightning and launched an extremely fierce attack at him without any regard for his own safety. You're courting death. Psycho Hongfei was furious. He no longer held back and activated the power of the evil ghost demonic wheel with all his might, blasting it at Zhuowen. The evil ghost demonic wheel was indeed worthy of being a rank 7 astral weapon fragment. Its power was indeed extremely terrifying. Everywhere it passed, the void was about to be destroyed. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He naturally felt the terrifying power of the evil ghost demonic wheel. With his strength, if he faced the evil ghost demonic wheel head-on, he would basically be courting death. Seeing that the white lightning cone was about to descend, Zhuowen also knew that this was a rare opportunity. He absolutely could not let Psycho Hongfei escape from the scene of the great calamity. With a vicious look in his eyes, he took out the Tai Sovereign Seal and channeled his divine power into it. On the surface of the Tai Sovereign Seal, an intense yellow light surged, and the Tai Sovereign Seal rapidly expanded. In the end, the Grand Emperor Seal turned into a small hill that was about 10 feet in size and stood in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen's face immediately turned incomparably pale. This Tai Imperial Seal was too ruthless. It was still crazily absorbing his divine power. Thankfully, Zhuowen's cultivation base had already reached the ancient star transformation stage, and his god force was far more robust than before. As such, he was able to just barely hold on. The evil ghost demonic will swept through the void and spun at high speed. The countless ferocious evil ghost statues on its surface seemed to have come to life, turning into ghost fog and revealing ferocious and terrifying heads. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out as the evil spirit demonic wheel finally crashed into the Grand Emperor's seal. The Grand Emperor's seal swayed slightly, then became as still as a mountain. A rich golden light flowed on its surface, flashing incessantly. It was a dazzling sight. From within the evil ghost demonic wheel, a blood-curdling scream rang out. It sounded like the scream of an old man who had been heavily slashed by a knife. It was extremely unpleasant to the ears. The evil ghost demonic wheel flew out and landed beside Saikou Hongfei, screaming incessantly. Saikou Hongfei's eyes narrowed as he stared at the Grand Emperor's seal in front of Zhuowen in disbelief. What the hell was this? Not only did the evil ghost demonic wheel fail to destroy the Grand Emperor's seal, but it was also severely damaged. Saikou Hongfei was completely dumbfounded. He even forgot that he was trying to avoid Zhuowen's calamity. By the time he regained his senses, it was already too late. Rolling white lightning fell densely, completely enveloping him and the surrounding hundreds of millions of miles. Saikou Hongfei roared, his face filled with shock and anger. He immediately waved the evil ghost demonic wheel to defend against the dense white lightning. Saikou Hongfei, what are you doing? Can't you see that I'm severely injured? You still want to borrow my power? The weapon spirit of the evil ghost demonic wheel was flustered and exasperated. He kept cursing Saikou Hongfei, clearly indicating that he did not want to help anymore. Saikou Hongfei's face darkened. The weapon spirit of the evil ghost demonic wheel was too much of a bastard. His words were too vulgar. Every curse was a personal attack. However, Saikou Hongfei could only swallow his anger. After all, he still needed to borrow the power of the evil ghost demonic wheel. Furthermore, when he saw the dense and endless amount of terrifying white lightning around him, he felt goosebumps all over his body. If he was at his peak, he could definitely withstand these white lightning bolts. However, his current state was too weak. If he faced this calamity head-on, he would be severely injured even if he did not die. Damn it, what kind of freak is this guy? Why would a mere ancient star transformation cause such a freakish calamity? Saikou Hongfei could not help but curse. He was extremely depressed. Zhuowen, who was hiding in the Tai Emperor's seal, naturally also felt the terror of the white lightning hell. His face instantly turned extremely pale. Fortunately, the Tai Emperor's seal was indeed powerful. It protected Zhuowen and blocked the countless white lightning bolts that were attacking him, preventing them from getting close to him. In the endless white lightning hell, Zhuowen's spiritual consciousness also sensed that Saikou Hongfei was also struggling to withstand the white lightning bolts not far away. From Saikou Hongfei's state, it was obvious that this guy was not in a good state. After all, he was enduring part of the calamity for Zhuowen. Moreover, Saikou Hongfei's aura was far stronger than Zhuowen's. Therefore, the place where the white lightning was densest was where Saikou Hongfei was. I must get rid of him as soon as possible. Cold killing intent burst out from Zhuowen's eyes. He knew that now was the best time to get rid of Saikou Hongfei. If he waited until the calamity was over, he would lose the advantage of time. At that time, it would be very difficult to get rid of Saikou Hongfei. Kill. Zhuowen no longer dodged the white lightning bolts. Instead, he rushed out and faced the endless white lightning bolts as he charged towards Saikou Hongfei. This was his calamity. Although this calamity was terrifying and powerful enough to destroy anything, Saikou Hongfei was still able to withstand it. However, if Zhuowen could make it through, his aura would only grow stronger with the assistance of the calamity. Naturally, the benefits he could obtain would also increase. On the other hand, Saikou Hongfei could only passively take the hits. The longer he stayed here, the more dangerous his situation would become. Is this guy crazy? Saikou Hongfei naturally saw Zhuowen charging toward him. He was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He cursed Zhuowen loudly. However, no matter how much he cursed, he could only passively assume a defensive posture. Boom! Zhuowen quickly moved with great difficulty to Saikou Hongfei. His body was bathed in white lightning and was char-black. A strong smell of burnt flesh wafted out from him. However, his eyes were filled with madness. He raised the Tai Emperor's seal and smashed it towards Saikou Hongfei. Saikou Hongfei's face darkened. He was surrounded by most of the white lightning and had nowhere to retreat. He knew that he could only fight. He used all his strength to summon the evil ghost demonic wheel and try to block Zhuan's attack. However, just as he summoned the evil ghost demonic wheel, he was shocked to find that it had slipped out of his hand and flew in the opposite direction, avoiding the Tai Emperor's seal. I won't fight this damn thing head-on. Psycho Hongfei, if you want to fight head-on, don't drag me into it. The artifact spirit's terrified voice came from the evil ghost demonic wheel. Chapter 4097. Boom! The Tai Emperor's seal fell heavily on Saiku Hongfei's body like a mountain. The two of them were too close. Saiku Hongfei knew that it was impossible for him to dodge, so he roared and gathered all the divine power in his body to resist the Tai Emperor's seal. In the end, the Tai Emperor's seal collided with Saiku Hongfei, and a terrible sound of collision rang out. Saiku Hongfei's full strength didn't last long before it was crushed by the Tai Emperor's seal. Saiku Hongfei screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He was sent flying in a sorry state. Boom! 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 The moment Saiku Hongfei was pushed back, countless bolts of white lightning landed on his body, and he screamed in pain. Saiku Hongfei tried his best to resist the white lightning, but unfortunately, his injuries were too severe, and the divine power he could use was pitifully thin. Zhuan, on the other hand, was continuously pushed back by the white lightning. His body was already charred black. However, his eyes grew even brighter and sharper. Moreover, an extremely dense vitality surged within the depths of his extremely charred body like a withered tree that had just come back to life. Zhuan believed that as long as he could survive this, his cultivation would immediately soar to the peak of the early-stage ancient star transformation. He wouldn't be too far away from the mid-stage ancient star transformation. Saiku Hongfei, today, only one of us will live. I will kill you even if I have to risk my life. Zhuan's eyes were cold. He used the Tai Emperor's seal to block most of the white lightning, and used his physical body to resist the rest. He slowly walked toward Saiku Hongfei. Madman, you're a madman. When Saiku Hongfei saw this scene, he was truly frightened. That was why he had cried out in a shrill voice. At this moment, he finally felt a deep sense of fear. In his eyes, Zhuan was a madman who didn't care about his own life. In this terrifying calamity, the two of them were in a very difficult situation. They could only barely protect themselves. However, in order to kill him, Zhuan didn't care about the consequences at all. He was willing to pay any price. Zhuan grinned, and his smile was filled with coldness. Evil ghost devil wheel, why don't you come and help me? If I die, who will provide you with sacrifices in the future? Saiku Hongfei hurriedly shouted at the evil ghost demonic wheel not far away. However, to Saiku Hongfei's despair, the evil spirit demonic wheel ignored him. Instead, it said calmly, Saiku Hongfei, I only like the strong. The more powerful they are, the more sacrifices they can provide me. Back then, you were indeed strong enough, so I was willing to accept your worship. But now you can't. As the saying goes, the winner takes all. You are no longer qualified for me to lend you my strength. You're just a lowly weakling. Saiku Hongfei's face paled as he shouted angrily. Evil ghost demonic wheel, you have helped me. If I die, do you think it will let you go? However, the evil ghost devil wheel mocked. Saiku Hongfei, you think too highly of yourself? Have you forgotten that I am a level 7 astral weapon fragment? Who would refuse the power of a level 7 astral weapon fragment? Evil ghost devil wheel, you ingrate. I have provided you with so many lives over the years, and I have agreed to almost all of your conditions. Now, I only want to borrow your strength to make you fight for your life, but you refuse to do so. Absolute. Isn't it too disappointing? Saiku Hongfei shouted angrily. The evil ghost devil will have gone too far. It only knew how to take and never gave. Haha, then you can only blame yourself for being stupid. You are a weakling. The evil ghost devil will replied coldly. It continued to watch the show not far away, and it had no intention of helping Psycho Hongfei. Zhuowen, who had been guarding against the evil ghost devil wheel, was completely relieved. He knew that the evil ghost devil wheel would not really help Psycho Hongfei. Psycho Hongfei, it is time for you to die. Accept this reality. Zhuowen finally arrived in front of Psycho Hongfei with difficulty. He raised the Tai Emperor's seal with difficulty and smashed it at the ladder again. Boom! Psycho Hongfei was hit squarely once again, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The dense cracks on his body were rapidly spreading, and he was like a piece of glass that could shatter at any time. Psycho Hongfei kept retreating, and countless white thunderbolts were like maggots that burrowed into his body, wantonly destroying his insides. Psycho Hongfei screamed in agony. His body was finally on the verge of collapse, and with a loud boom, it shattered into countless pieces. Zhuowen was also hit by countless white thunderbolts, and he spat out blood as he retreated. His body also showed signs of collapsing. However, the aura in the depths of his body was growing stronger and stronger. I will definitely survive this tribulation. Zhuowen roared, put away the Tai Emperor's seal, and rushed into the void to face the countless white thunderbolts. The Tai Emperor's seal consumed too much divine power, so Zhuowen would rather not use it. He planned to use his own strength to resist this tribulation that belonged to him. The white thunderbolts persisted for a long time, and although Zhuowen's injuries were getting worse, his aura was getting stronger and stronger. Finally, when the white thunderbolts completely disappeared, Zhuowen's aura skyrocketed, and a thunderous sound burst out from his body. At this moment, he had advanced again and reached the middle stage of the ancient star transformation. All of this was due to the extremely pure energy contained in the tribulation. Otherwise, Zhuowen would not have been able to advance so quickly. In the depths of the chaotic void, the rolling tribulation gradually dissipated, and peace was restored. Zhuowen slowly descended from the depths of the void. The charred skin on the surface of his skin, which looked like a cicada's cocoon, gradually cracked and scattered, revealing a translucent jade-like skin. Zhuowen slowly clenched his fist, and a series of explosive sounds rang out, and the air vibrated with extremely terrifying waves and ripples. Just by clenching his fist, there was already such a powerful movement. It was obvious that Zhuowen's body had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. So the powerful white thunderbolts have such a powerful tempering effect on the body. Zhuowen was pleasantly surprised. He realized that although each tribulation was extremely terrifying, his body would basically undergo a terrifying transformation once he passed the tribulation. This was like a sword that had been tempered thousands of times. The more tempered it was, the sharper it would be. His corporeal body was the sword, and every calamity was the hammer that forged it. Of course, this tempering effect was only effective on him. If an outsider accidentally entered his tribulation, they would not be tempered but rather die. Chapter 4098. This evil ghost devil wheel was indeed worthy of being a rank 7-star weapon fragment. Although it was in a sorry state, it did not suffer much damage overall. Zhuowen looked coldly at the evil ghost devil wheel in front of him. Speaking of which, he did not like the spirit of this evil ghost devil wheel. Although he was able to kill Psycho Hongfei smoothly, it was also indirectly because of this evil ghost devil wheel. But just as Psycho Hongfei had said, the spirit of this evil ghost devil wheel was an ingrate. Psycho Hongfei had supported him for so many years, but at the critical moment, he stabbed his own master in the back. Suddenly, not far away, a faint ball of light rushed up and flew into the distance. Hee. Psycho Hongfei, you can't escape. The evil ghost devil wheel suddenly laughed sinisterly, and then the rolling black fog rushed out, revealing a huge black handprint, and blasted towards the ball of light. Evil ghost devil wheel, you are despicable and shameless. You will die a horrible death. The ball of light was suppressed by the black handprint, and Psycho Hongfei's resentful voice came from it. The spirit of the evil ghost devil did not feel guilty at all. With a wave of the black handprint, the ball of light was held in front of him. Psycho Hongfei, you know the principle of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots much better than I do. I will always believe that the dead are more reliable than the living. The evil ghost devil will chuckled, then grabbed the ball of light, looked at Zhuan proudly, and continued, "Boy, let's get to know each other. My name is Evil Emperor. You can call me Lord Evil Emperor. Inside this ball of light should be Psycho Hongfei's soul and his universe world. If you want it, promise to sacrifice 10 million creatures for me. Also, if you want to cooperate with me and need to borrow my power, then give it to me. Give it to me. My request is not high. Every 10 years, you have to sacrifice 100 million creatures for me. As long as you meet my requirements, I can be merciful and lend you the power of the evil ghost devil wheel." Zhuan silently looked at the complacent evil ghost devil wheel, and the corner of his mouth revealed a cold smile. This evil ghost demonic wheel was really insatiable. It had no self-awareness at all. After betraying his master in front of Zhuan, he still dared to ask him to worship him and sacrifice 100 million living beings every 10 years. Did he really think that he, Zhuan, was a fool? "Are you very strong? Do I need to borrow your power?" Zhuan sneered. What do you mean?" Demon Wheel's voice suddenly became gloomy. He stared coldly at Zhuan, his eyes bursting with killing intent. "What I mean is, you're too weak. You're not even worthy of my attention." After Zhuan finished speaking, his eyes became extremely sharp, and then his figure moved, and he suddenly rushed towards the evil ghost demonic wheel. The moment Zhuan charged over, his aura also rose inch by inch, suddenly becoming extremely terrifying and powerful. "You bastard! Don't think that you're so great just because you defeated Psycho Hongfei. If you didn't rely on that strange disaster, you really wouldn't be a match for Psycho Hongfei. Now that you've lost the support of the disaster, do you think you're a match for me?" The evil ghost demonic wheel screamed, and his voice was full of exasperation. The rolling black fog suddenly exploded, and there was a tendency for swords to be drawn. Boom! The evil ghost demonic wheel was furious, and he attacked Zhuan with all his strength. The corner of Zhuan's mouth was full of a cold smile. He flipped his right hand and took out the Tai Emperor's seal. Although the Tai Emperor's seal absorbed divine power at an exaggerated rate, he was now at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation stage, and he could barely withstand a few attacks from the Tai Emperor's seal. When the evil ghost demonic wheel saw the Tai Emperor's seal, he screamed shrilly, and his charging momentum stopped in an incredible way. Then, he suddenly fled in the opposite direction. When he fought against Psycho Hongfei, the evil ghost demonic will suffered greatly from the Tai Emperor's seal, and he was almost crippled. He knew very well how terrifying the Tai Emperor's seal was. So, when Zhuan took out the Tai Emperor's seal again, he didn't even care about his reputation and fled in a panic. "You want to escape? You think it's that easy?" Zhuan sneered. He already knew that the evil ghost demonic wheel would try to escape. Therefore, he waved his sleeve and activated the temporary teleportation array that he had set up in the surroundings. White light flashed, and Zhuan appeared in front of the evil ghost demonic wheel as if he had teleported. The Tai Emperor's seal in his hand violently slammed into the evil ghost demonic wheel. The Tai Emperor's seal, which was 10 feet long, slammed into the evil ghost demonic wheel, and dazzling sparks flew everywhere. The aftershock of the collision spread out, and the surrounding space was greatly distorted and collapsed. It was a horrifying scene. Among the deafening collision, there was also a blood-curdling scream that sounded like the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. The evil ghost demonic wheel was hit by the Tai Emperor's seal again, and the artifact's spirit cried out in pain. The luster on its surface was also much dimmer. The moment the evil ghost demonic wheel was hit until it was dizzy, Zhuan moved all 10 of his fingers and set up a powerful trapping array, completely trapping the evil ghost demonic wheel inside. Then, Zhuan grinned and took out the Tai Emperor's seal and slammed it into the evil ghost demonic wheel without hesitation. Blood-curdling screams were heard continuously. The evil ghost demonic wheel was so badly hit by the Tai Emperor's seal that cracks started to appear on its surface. Zhuowen naturally noticed this, and he became more and more curious about the origin of the Tai Emperor's seal. Where did this seal come from? Even a rank 7 astral weapon fragment was so weak in front of it. Kid, stop. I'll give you Saiku Hongfei's spiritual soul and Qingquan world. Let me go. The evil ghost demonic wheel let out a weak cry for mercy. It really couldn't take it anymore. The power of the Tai Emperor's seal was too terrifying. If it still didn't surrender, it would really end up in a situation where its spiritual soul would be destroyed. Zhuowen smiled indifferently and said, "Hand over Saiku Hongfei's spiritual soul and Qingquan world first." "Let me go first," the evil ghost demonic will said cautiously. Zhuowen didn't say anything else. With a flip of his right hand, the Tai Emperor's seal hit the evil ghost demonic wheel again. "Do you think you still have a choice now?" Zhuowen sneered. "Don't. I'll hand it over right now." The evil ghost demonic wheel was shocked and hurriedly threw the ball of light in the black handprint to Zhuowen. Zhuowen caught the ball of light in his hand and found that inside the ball of light, the little person who looked like Saiku Hongfei was curled up in a broken world. In the ruined Qingquan world, Saiku Hongfei naturally felt Zhuowen's aura. He trembled and didn't even dare to raise his head to look at Zhuowen. "Now, can you let me go?" the evil ghost demonic will ask carefully. "Surrender to me, and I can give you a chance to live," Zhuowen said indifferently. The evil ghost demonic wheel was furious and said, You didn't keep your word. Did I promise you just now that I'll let you go if you give me Saiku Hongfei's spiritual soul?" Zhuowen asked mockingly. The evil ghost demonic wheel was speechless. Zhuowen indeed didn't make a promise to him. "You make the choice. Submit or die," Zhuowen said murderously. Chapter 4099. Zhuowen opened his palm and grabbed the evil ghost demonic wheel that was kneeling in front of him. But the moment his palm touched the evil ghost demonic wheel, a strange black gas suddenly exploded, turning into a ferocious face that rushed towards Zhuowen. The evil ghost demonic wheel took advantage of this gap and fled into the distance like an arrow released from a bow. Zhuowen sneered. He was already prepared. With a press of his right hand, the Grand Imperial Seal suddenly fell. The ferocious faces formed by the black gas were all destroyed. At this moment, the evil ghost demonic will had already escaped to the edge of the trap array that Zhuowen had set up and was trying its best to break the array. In order to break the array, the evil ghost demonic wheel's weapon spirit even burned its spirit body to obtain more power. Finally, before Zhuowen could catch up, it forcefully broke the trap array that Zhuowen had set up. With a roar, it fled into the distance. Whoosh! The moment the evil ghost demonic wheel escaped, an earth-shattering purple-gold sword light cut through the void and quickly slashed towards it. The evil ghost demonic wheel did not expect it at all. Caught off guard, it was hit by the sword light. With a muffled groan, it was forced back. And he also finally saw clearly that the one who had slashed out this purple gold sword beam was actually the rank 6 astral weapon fragment, the purple gold divine sword, that Zhuowen had been using all along. To the evil ghost demonic wheel, it did not care about the purple gold divine sword, but at this moment, it was gnashing its teeth in hatred. It was this crucial sword strike of the purple gold divine sword that finally gave it the best opportunity to escape. And Zhuowen had already wrapped the Grand Imperial Seal, rolling over and smashing it fiercely at the evil ghost demonic wheel. Then, the evil ghost demonic wheel let out a shrill scream. It was once again heavily injured by the Grand Imperial Seal, and the cracks on its surface became more and more obvious. "Master, I am willing to submit to you. I was wrong. Please let me go this time." The evil ghost demonic wheel was extremely embarrassed. It knelt on the ground and begged Zhuowen for mercy. Zhuowen sneered. He reached out his right hand and grabbed the evil ghost demonic wheel. "Master, The evil spirit demonic will looked at Zhuowen in confusion. He didn't know what Zhuowen wanted to do. Zhuowen did not say a word. He took out two mysterious stones from his great world. They were the Great Word Stone and the Great Word Stone. The two stones emitted a mysterious purple light that shone faintly, as if they contained some kind of extraordinary energy. Rank 7 Astral Weapon Shard. I think it will allow my purple gold divine sword to successfully advance to rank 7. Zhuowen's eyes shone with undisguised greed. The evil spirit devil will tremble. Zhuowen's eyes were too terrifying. It was the eyes of a predator. In particular, the two glowing purple stones made him even more fearful. He could clearly feel an extremely strong sense of threat from them. Through the Supreme Word Stone and Hong Word Stone, Zhuowen's soul rushed into the evil ghost devil wheel. This was a boundless black sea, and in the middle of the black sea was a huge black cage. Zhuowen stood in front of the black cage and looked straight at the creature in the cage. The creature imprisoned in the cage was tens of thousands of feet tall. Strangely, it only had a huge, strange head but no body. This head was covered with extremely hard green scales, and there were 8 huge, bloody mouths on the head. "Oh, is this your true face?" Zhuowen looked at the strange creature in front of him and said expressionlessly. In the cage, the evil emperor looked at Zhuowen in horror and said in a low voice, "Master, the evil emperor knows that he was wrong. Please let me live. In the future, the evil emperor will serve Master well and will not dare to neglect him." "That's what you said just now, but you betrayed me in the blink of an eye. Can I still believe your words?" Zhuowen said slowly. The evil emperor's eyes darted around, and he suddenly broke out of the cage. His huge bloody mouth bit down on Zhuowen. "Kid, this is the space inside the evil ghost devil wheel, and I am the weapon spirit of the evil ghost devil wheel. In my space, do you think you are a match for me? Watch me eat you." The evil emperor suddenly revealed a sinister expression as he let out a deranged and wanton laugh. Zhuowen sneered and waved his right hand. The Supreme Word Stone and Hong Word Stone flew through the air and blocked the evil emperor. At the same time, the purple light emitted by the Supreme Word Stone and Hong Word Stone began to look down on the evil emperor's body, causing his body to be destroyed. What the hell is this? My body." The evil emperor's pupils shrank. He was finally afraid and began to retreat. Unfortunately, it was useless. Under the power of the Great Word Stone and the Hong Word Stone, his power was too insignificant. "Evil Emperor, you are right. The power of the stage 7 Astral Weapon Fragment is very tempting, but you, the weapon spirit, are a ticking time bomb. So I don't need you. I only need the evil ghost devil wheel." Zhuowen's faint voice sounded. The evil emperor stared at the tiny human below and let out a roar of disbelief. Then, his huge body completely disappeared. After getting rid of the evil emperor, Zhuowen began to use the characteristics of the primordial stone to merge it with the purple gold divine sword. Why can I merge them? When Zhuowen tried to merge the purple gold divine sword and the evil ghost devil wheel, he realized that the two astral weapon fragments were repelling each other and could not merge at all. Logically speaking, after the weapon spirit was killed, the two astral weapon fragments should be able to merge easily under the power of the primordial stone, but this method had failed. This is the lack of a weapon spirit. The stage 7 astral weapon fragment is much stronger than the stage 6 astral weapon fragment, and its level is also much higher. If there is no weapon spirit, it is impossible to adjust and balance the powerful energy in the stage 7 astral weapon fragment. Suddenly, Xiaohei's voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. Xiaohei, how did you know? Also, when I merged the astral weapon fragments, I could still merge them after erasing the weapon spirit. Why can't it work this time? Zhuowen asked in confusion. This Dragon Lord is a weapon cultivator after all. In this line of weapons, who else can compare to this Dragon Lord? Xiaohei was quite proud and continued. As for the problem you mentioned, it is because the primordial stone is too powerful. It can adjust the balance of the astral weapon. In the past, when the astral weapon was not strong, the primordial stone could still control it. Now the astral weapon has become stronger. It is not so easy to control it. This is also the reason why it is difficult to merge the two astral weapons. Hearing this, Zhuowen frowned slightly. If what Xiaohe said was true, then his purple gold divine sword could no longer be improved by merging other astral weapon fragments. However, I have an idea that might work, Xiaohe suddenly said. Chapter 4100. Device Spirit? Where can I find a device spirit? Zhuowen said with a wry smile. Am I not a device spirit? Besides, I have two device spirits, the blood immortal sword and the death sacrifice sword. It will be a piece of cake for me to help you fuse the two astral weapons. Xiaohe suddenly said proudly. Zhuowen was stunned for a moment. Then, he became overjoyed and said, Xiaohe, are you sure you can do it? It's worth a try. Recently, I have reached a bottleneck in my cultivation. The materials you gave me can no longer satisfy my cultivation. Maybe the astral weapon fragments will be the direction of my cultivation in the future. This attempt is also to verify my thoughts during this period. It's just an idea, Xiaohe said calmly. Zhuowen nodded. Xiaohe was a device cultivator and relied heavily on ores and materials. Although Zhuowen often gave the ores and materials he collected to Xiaohe, they were not particularly precious or rare. Therefore, Xiaohe's cultivation had been stagnant for a while, and he had been hovering around the god realm. However, if Xiaohe could successfully refine the two astral weapons and become the device spirit, his cultivation would soar in a short time, and he would not be weaker than him. With Zhuowen's permission, Xiaohe took the blood immortal sword and the death sacrifice sword and entered the space of the evil ghost demonic wheel. Boy, we may need some time to refine the two astral weapons. You can leave first, Xiaohe said to Zhuowen and began to concentrate on refining the evil ghost demonic wheel and the purple gold divine sword. Zhuowen shrugged. He knew as well that he couldn't interfere in this situation, so he tactfully retreated. I wonder how Master and the others are doing now. After leaving the space of the evil ghost demonic wheel, Zhuowen put the two astral weapon fragments into the macro world and took out the teleportation formation disk. A beam of white light enveloped Zhuowen, and he disappeared from his place. The third shortcut to the Hushu domain was an extremely remote ancient forest. In this ancient forest, ancient trees towered into the sky. It was verdant and lush. In the depths of the forest, huge flocks of birds would occasionally be startled. It was an extremely spectacular sight. At this moment, in the sky above the dense ancient forest, a stream of light quickly flew past. This stream of light was a divine ship. On the deck of the divine ship stood a group of people. However, these people looked dispirited, and the atmosphere on the deck was very heavy. Senior Marshal Brother Zhua decided to stay behind and face Psycho Hongfei alone so that we could escape. Patriarch, we can't let down Senior Brother Zhua's good intentions. Sammy was the first to break the silence. She spoke to the little lowly who was surrounded by the crowd and immersed in sorrow. Yes, Patriarch, don't be too sad. Junior Brother Zhua, he would never do anything he wasn't confident in. The reason why he dared to stay behind must be because he has a trump card that can save his life. Tu Washeng also advised. Ever since Shan Lingyun had been sent to the third divine ship, she had not said a word. She had only silently cried and kept muttering Zhuowen's name. The Hushu tribesmen also learned about Zhuowen's heroic deeds from Sammy and the others. At this moment, Zhuowen's position in their hearts had reached an unprecedented height. He was not a member of the Huxley tribesmen, but he was willing to fight against a strong enemy for them. They were filled with respect and admiration for Zhuowen. Just as everyone was immersed in sorrow, a blazing white light suddenly lit up on the deck. Then, a young man slowly walked out from the white light. When everyone saw the young man's face, they all fell silent. The surroundings were completely silent. Shan Lingyun, whose face was originally covered in tears, trembled violently the moment she saw this figure. Then, she suddenly dashed forward and threw herself into the embrace of this figure. "Disciple, am I still your master? Why didn't you discuss with me before making a decision? I thought I'd never see you again." Shanling Yun's small fist continuously hammered Zhuowen's chest. Her voice was filled with resentment and joy at seeing him again. Sammy, Tuo Sheng, and the rest of the Huxley tribesmen also came to their senses and revealed joyful smiles. This was because this figure was none other than Zhuowen. He's really something. I knew it. What kind of person was Junior Brother Zhua? It was impossible for him to meet with misfortune so easily. Not even Saiku Hongfei. Tuo Sheng revealed a simple and honest smile. Sammy glanced at Tuo Sheng, then walked forward and gave Zhuowen a big hug. After a while, Shanling Yun finally calmed down. She looked at Zhuowen with her big eyes and asked, "Disciple, how did you escape from Saiku Hongfei's hands?" Sammy, Tuo Sheng, and the rest also looked at Zhuowen curiously. Saiku Hongfei was the guardian of the Goldwater realm, a genuine expert of the great carefree realm. Even if he was seriously injured in the battle with Lu Yuanba, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill any ancient star transformations expert. However, not only did Zhuowen return, but he also looked unscathed. Everyone was very curious. Zhuowen put Shanling Yun down, then scratched his head and said, "That, I didn't escape from Saiku Hongfei's hands." "Ah, Senior Zhuo, what do you mean?" Sammy asked doubtfully. Everyone was also a little confused. If he didn't escape from Saiku Hongfei's hands, could it be that he let him go on his own accord? Basically, no one thought that Zhuowen could defeat Saiku Hongfei. After all, this was simply impossible. After all, the gap between the ancient star transformations and the great carefree realm was too big. It could be described as the difference between heaven and earth. I accidentally killed Saiku Hongfei. Zhuowen laughed dryly. Silence. The surroundings fell into a strange silence. Everyone stared at Zhuowen. "Disciple, this joke isn't funny," Shanling Yun said speechlessly. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. He knew that no matter how he explained, it was unlikely that they would believe him. Therefore, he opened his right hand, and a ball of light appeared in his palm. Within the ball of light was the ruins of a dilapidated Qiankuan world. In the ruins, a weak, godly spirit was curled up and shivering. "This is Saiku Hongfei." Everyone looked at the ball of light, and someone immediately recognized the owner of the godly spirit. After all, the appearance of a godly spirit was exactly the same as a real person. Everyone present had seen Saiku Hongfei before. Naturally, it was impossible for them not to recognize him. Hiss! Everyone's gaze fell on Zhuowen again, and they couldn't help but gasp. Now, Zhuowen had even taken out Saiku Hongfei's godly spirit in Qiankuan world. They knew that Zhuowen wasn't bragging. It was the truth. However, this truth was too absurd. Chapter 4101. After a long period of silence, the crowd finally confirmed that the ball of light in Zhuowen's hand was indeed Saiku Hongfei. Everyone looked at Zhuowen with respect and admiration. To be able to defeat a great carefree realm cultivator with ancient star transformation realm cultivation, this was probably a rarity in the entire 100 Outer Realms. However, all such monstrous geniuses were basically the most outstanding geniuses of extremely powerful domains. They might be able to do it, but most people simply could not. Yet, Zhuowen had done it. This meant that Zhuowen's talent and strength were in no way inferior to the true geniuses of the Outer 100 domains. Disciple, with your strength, I'm afraid you can be ranked in the top 20 of the heavenly list. Shanling Yun blinked her eyes and clicked her tongue. Outer Realm heavenly ranking? What kind of ranking is that? Zhuowen asked curiously. It seems like you don't know anything about the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. Shanling Yun had an expression as if she'd known this would happen, and then she continued. The so-called Outer World Heavenly Rankings is a ranking that lists the heaven-shattering realm experts with extremely formidable combat strength in the 100 Outer Worlds. Moreover, there are only 108 places on the Outer Realm Heavenly list. Most of the cultivators who can enter this list are masters at the peak of the ancient star realm. Many of them have already touched the threshold of the great carefree realm. They are all extraordinary. Zhuowen was startled. This was the first time he had heard of this so-called heavenly ranking. Then what is Patriarch Lu's ranking on the beyond realm heavenly ranking? Zhuowen looked at Shanlingyun and asked. Lu Rinjue was an expert at the pinnacle of the ancient star transformation realm. In the Hushu domain, other than the protector of the Hushu domain, Lu Yuanba, he could be considered the strongest expert in the entire domain. He was curious as to what ranking Lu Renren would obtain on the outer realm heavenly ranking. Shanlingyun shook her head and said sadly, although Father is powerful, he is still a distance away from the real experts on the outer realm list. Hence, he is not on the list. What? Patriarch Lu is not qualified to enter the outer realm heavenly ranking? Zhuowen was really shocked. The outer realm's heavenly ranking is the most authoritative ranking in the outer realm's 100 territories. Among countless living beings, those who are able to enter the heavenly shattering realm are all peerless geniuses that are 1 in 10,000. Senior Brother Zhua, you're thinking of this ranking too simply. Senior, Zhuowen's name of the ancient heavenly ranking, Lu said, heavenly ranking of the outer realm heavenly list. Heaven-shattering heavenly tribulation. Of the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly Tao of the heavens. Zhuowen was also stunned. It seemed that the outer realm heavenly ranking really couldn't be underestimated. The reason why he was able to defeat Psycho Hongfei was because he had the advantage of time, place, and people. Moreover, Psycho Hongfei was heavily injured, which was why he was able to defeat him in the end. If Psycho Hongfei was still at his peak, he might not be a match for him. The top 10 of the outer realm heavenly ranking had actually killed a cultivator who had gone through the great tribulation of universe. This was really shocking. It seemed that the 100 outer realms was vast beyond his expectations. There were still many people who were stronger than him. Zhuowen also noticed that when the outer realm heavenly ranking was mentioned, the people of the Hushu tribe all revealed looks of reverence and yearning. The outer realm heavenly ranking was too valuable. At the same time, it was also the ranking with the most intense competition. After all, in the 100 outer realms, there were the most heaven-shattering realm cultivators. Among the many heaven-shattering realm cultivators, there would always be a super genius who would stand out and enter the outer realm heavenly ranking. Master, who created this ranking? Do you have a detailed list of names? Zhuowen suddenly asked. Shanlingyun shook her head and said, I don't have a list of names on the outer realm heavenly ranking. Normally, the stone tablets of the outer realm heavenly ranking are built in the realms where the geniuses who have entered the outer realm heavenly ranking were born. Our Hushu realm is too weak and has never had such geniuses. Therefore, we don't have the qualifications to build a stone tablet of the outer realm heavenly ranking. Also, this outer realm heavenly ranking was created by the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Zhuowen's pupils constricted. He had inadvertently seen the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy in the many books in the scripture pavilion of Hanwu Shengzhen. It was said that a very long time ago, the 100 outer realms didn't have the concept of realms. It was still in a chaotic era where there were endless disputes and raging wars. In that era, the 100 outer realms was a wasteland. There were no rules and no order. There was only killing and the law of the jungle. Later on, a stream of light fell from the immemorial star system that hung high in the sky and landed in the 100 outer realms. From then on, a mysterious cultivator appeared in the 100 outer realms. With his own strength, he calmed all the disputes in the 100 outer realms and established supreme authority with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He was worshipped by all living beings. He straightened out the moral code, calmed the people's hearts, established laws, and enforced rules. From then on, the development of the 100 outer realms was on the right track. They were divided into realms. Each realm had its own protector, and various large clans were born. With the continuous development of these clans, and the help of the primordial stone, they developed many lower realms. It could be said that the source of all of this came from that mysterious cultivator. After the mysterious cultivator had completely unified the 100 outer realms, he took in 5 disciples and gave a part of his orthodoxy to the 5 of them. After that, he left mysteriously. Those 5 disciples founded the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy. It could be said that the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy was the symbol of that mysterious cultivator. From then on, there was no more news of that mysterious cultivator in the 100 outer realms. However, legends about him circulated in the 100 outer realms for a long time. It was because of this relationship that the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy had an extremely special status in the 100 outer realms. It was revered and worshipped by all living beings. Of course, the reason why the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy stood tall was not only because of the mysterious cultivator, but also because it was extremely powerful. In the various realms, countless young geniuses were proud to enter the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy. Moreover, any genius who could cultivate in the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy would basically become an expert of the great carefree realm in the future. With such a high status, the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy established the outer realms heavenly Tao ranking naturally had great authority. Disciple, with your current strength, as long as you can challenge a genius on the outer realms heavenly Tao ranking and defeat them to enter the outer realms heavenly Tao Academy, the people from the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy will immediately contact you and recruit you into the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy. Yin said excitedly. The surrounding Hushu clan members were also extremely excited. That was the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy, the holy land that they dreamed of. They also thought that with Zhuowen's talent and strength, it would not be difficult for him to join the immemorial heavenly Tao Academy. Zhuowen shook his head. The immemorial heavenly Tao Academy's origin was too great. It was said that its founder came from the immemorial star system. If Zhuowen joined such a holy land of inheritance, he would definitely benefit greatly. Chapter 41:02. My dear disciple, this is a good opportunity. Are you going to give up just like that? Shan Lingyun saw Zhuowen shaking his head and felt that it was unbelievable. Master, you know what my priority is right now, right? Zhuowen suddenly said. Shan Lingyun was stunned and then hesitated. My dear disciple, are you going to look for that lady called Moyan Wushang? Shan Lingyun naturally understood that Zhuowen had looked for her mainly to use her soul speech technique to calculate Moyan Wushang's exact location. If Shan Lingyun had not been suddenly captured by Huxley, Zhuowen might have been on the way to the Nuar realm instead of following them to face Huxley's extermination. Zhuowen's eyes carried a trace of reminiscence as he nodded gently. My dear disciple, let me go to the Nuar realm with you. After all, my soul speech technique is much more advanced than yours. I can definitely help a lot. Shan Lingyun said proudly. Zhuowen was simply too outstanding. However, Dan Lingyun still felt a sense of pride that she was able to frustrate Zhuowen in the aspect of the spirit language technique. Zhuowen was stunned and then shook his head. Master, if we are not going the same way, there is no need for you to follow me. Moreover, you're now the new leader of Huxley. The burden is heavy. Shan Lingyun sighed rather dispiritedly when she heard this. She really did not want to accept the position of the leader. However, due to the circumstances, she was the only suitable candidate. All right, the leader left me a letter. He told us to open the letter after we leave. If we can't leave, we have to destroy it. Zhuowen suddenly thought of something. He flipped his right palm, and a beautifully bound letter appeared in his palm. Let's open it and take a look. Shan Lingyun took the letter and glanced at Zhuowen. Seeing the latter nod his head, she opened the letter. The surface of the letter was obviously sealed by some kind of power. Shan Lingyun did not open it at first. This is a blood seal. Only the blood essence of Huxley's people can open it. Sa Ame reminded her. Shan Lingyun blushed. She had been in Huxley for too short a time, so she did not recognize this blood seal. Thus, under everyone's gaze, Shan Lingyun bit her finger and squeezed out a drop of blood essence and dripped it on the letter. A ray of golden light appeared on the surface of the letter, and then the seal on the surface gradually dissipated. Shan Lingyun hurriedly opened the envelope. There was a piece of golden paper inside, and the words on it were emitting a faint glow. The general content of the letter was that Zhuo Wen and Shan Lingyun were to lead the rest of their people to the Sorcerer Realm after the Hushu Divine City was finally breached. The Witch God world was located in the south of the 100 Domains. Although it was also a low-level world, its foundation was much stronger than the Huxley world. There was no other reason. The Magus God realm had 2 experts at the Universe Tribulation realm. Ordinary low-level realms really did not dare to provoke such a tough opponent. Lu Rinjue asked his people to go to the Witch God world because his sister, Lu Yingying, was the cultivation partner of the Witch God clan's leader. Lu Yingying was also a member of Huxley. She was also Shan Lingyun's aunt. Thus, it was the best choice for the Huxley world to go to the Witch God clan. Shan Lingyun did not hide the contents of the letter from everyone. She made it public. Everyone was relieved when they found out that they were going to the Witch God clan, where Lu Yingying was from. Although Lu Yingying was married, she was a native of the Huxley world. Thus, she would definitely take them in and help them revive Huxley in the future. My disciple, you will pass by the Witch God world on your way to the Nuwa world. Why don't you follow us to the Witch God world? After we settle down, I will go with you to find your little lover. Shan Lingyun said with a smile. Zhuowen rolled his eyes at Shan Lingyun. After thinking for a while, he nodded. Shan Lingyun was right. The Witch God world was on the way to the Nuwa world. They were all in the south of the 100 Domains. Thus, he did not need to part ways with the Huxley world so early. All right, I will go with you to the Witch God world, Zhuowen said with a nod. The distance between the Witch God world and the Huxley world is more than 10 domains. If we use the ancient teleportation formation, we will have to transfer at least 10 times. The cost is very expensive. Moreover, there are so many of us. The teleportation formation will not be very effective. That's a good choice, Same suddenly said. Zhuowen shrugged and gave everyone a helpless expression. He was the one who knew the least about the 100 outer territories among this group of people, so he naturally couldn't think of any good ideas. The only way is to ride the space-time beast to the Witch God world. This is the most practical and convenient way, Shan Lingyun suddenly said. The space-time beast can only be tamed in mid-level domains and above. If we want to ride the space-time beast, we must go to mid-level domains and above, Tuo Sheng said in a low voice. I have calculated that the closest mid-level domain to us should be the light domain. At our current speed, we will only need 2 months to reach the light domain, Shan Lingyun said. Everyone nodded and agreed with Shan Lingyun's suggestion. They planned to go to the light domain first. After the itinerary was arranged, everyone dispersed and returned to their rooms to cultivate. Some of them gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to chat. Zhuowen said goodbye to Shan Lingyun, Same, and Tuo Sheng and returned to his cabin. After setting up the seal, Zhuowen entered the parallel world. In the parallel world, the scenery was beautiful and lush. In many areas, there were already living creatures such as birds and beasts. The only imperfection was that his parallel world had yet to give birth to intelligent creatures such as humans. However, Zhuowen knew that when his strength continued to increase, his parallel world would become stronger and more advanced. By then, he might be able to give birth to intelligent creatures such as humans. By then, these native humans would worship him as a god and develop their own civilization and system. At this moment, Zhuowen had the illusion that he was the supreme creator of the universe. Zhuowen shook his head and laughed at himself. He felt that he was indulging in fantasy. Although his big world was indeed very strange, it was only a primary world. Unless he could create a universe, Perhaps only then could he really be considered a creator of the universe. After Zhuowen shook off the strange thoughts in his mind, he landed on the island in the middle of the parallel world. Chapter 4103. Zhuowen, what do you want to do? Inside the trapping array, two beautiful women were bound and unable to move. However, the moment the two women saw Zhuowen, they revealed a look of fear. These two were naturally Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing, who had been captured alive by Zhuowen in the Ghost King Ridge. Originally, Zhuowen had captured the two of them alive only to use them as hostages so that the patriarchs of the three great clans would hesitate to attack. Unfortunately, the three great clans had taken action before he left the Ghost King Ridge and completely shed all pretense of cordiality. What happened next was naturally without suspense. After Zhuowen had successfully broken through the ancient star transformation, he had cleanly destroyed all the elite experts of the three great clans, including the patriarchs of the three great clans. Don't act recklessly. My master is the patriarch of God's Eye, Lung Yinyu. If he finds out that you dared to imprison us, you'll be finished. If you still want to live, you'd better let us go. Lung Feifei shouted. Jian Wuqing's eyes were cold. Although she did not speak, a trace of fearless arrogance flashed in her eyes. Obviously, her thoughts were similar to Lung Feifei's. Aha! Are you so fearless because of your masters, Lung Yinyu and Xiao Zihui? Zhuowen mocked. What do you mean? I admit that you are indeed strong, but your cultivation has only broken through the ancient star transformation not long ago. However, the gap between you and our masters is still too big. You are no match for them. Let us go, and we can let bygones be bygones, and let you leave alive. Leave this place alive, Jian Wuqing said calmly. Ridiculous. You probably don't know yet. Yuri, Lung Yinyu, and Xiao Zihui have already been defeated by me. Don't you think it's ridiculous for you to threaten me with them? Zhuowen said indifferently. Impossible. You must be lying. Lung Feifei shook her head and sneered. Zhuowen did not continue to argue with Lung Feifei. Instead, he waved his sleeve and three figures landed at his feet in a sorry state. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing turned towards the source of the voice, and their faces stiffened. This was because these three sorry figures were none other than the patriarchs of the three great clans, as well as their masters. Yuri, Xiao Zihui, and Lung Yinyu were covered in dust. All of their cultivation had been sealed in their bodies by Zhuowen. At this moment, they were like ordinary people, unable to use any strength. The three of them naturally saw Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing looking at them in disbelief. They could not help but lower their heads as shame flashed in their eyes. Now, do you still think I'm lying? Zhuowen asked indifferently. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing fell silent. Their eyes were still filled with shock and disbelief. This Zhuowen actually defeated the patriarchs of the three great clans. How'd he do it? Zhuowen, you're too presumptuous. Aren't you afraid that our realm guardian will take revenge? Huxley has been completely defeated. This is the trend. You're not even a member of the Hushu clan. So why do you have to protect Huxley? Yuri said with a sense of superiority in his eyes. This was because he still had a final trump card, which was the realm guardian. As long as their realm guardian was still around, no matter how strong Zhuowen was, he would not be able to do anything to their realm guardian. This was also the advantage they had in negotiating with Zhuowen. Patriarch Yu is right. Zhuowen, as long as you let us go and apologize, we won't pursue any responsibility against you. Lung Yinyu echoed. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing, who had originally fallen silent, had their eyes lit up again. That's right, they still have the domain protector. That's what they really rely on. Bang! Suddenly, Yuri groaned and fell to the ground. Lung Feifei and the others realized that Zhuowen had unknowingly raised his foot and ruthlessly stepped on Yuri's head. The unlucky Yuri's face came into extremely intimate contact with the ground. His entire face was about to plunge into the ground. Zhuowen, Yuri was furious and struggled with all his might. Unfortunately, his cultivation had been sealed, so struggling was futile. Realm Guardian? I'm sorry, but your Jin Shui clan's Realm Guardian, Psycho Hongfei, has already been defeated by me, Zhuowen said indifferently. Yuri was taken aback for a moment before bursting into laughter. Zhuowen, you really dare to say that? Lord Saiku is an expert of the great Qian Kuan tribulation. Who do you think you are? You even said that you defeated him. I think you saw him from afar and immediately ran away in panic. Because you ran away like a stray dog. Zhuowen sneered. With a flip of his right hand, he took out a ball of light. His right hand reached into the ball of light and suddenly squeezed. A shrill scream rang out from the ball of light. Saiku Hongfei's spirit, who had been trembling in the ruins of the great Qiankun world, was pulled out. Psycho Hongfei, your descendant said that I would immediately run away like a stray dog when I saw you. I wonder if you agree with this view or not. Zhuowen asked indifferently. Saiku Hongfei's spirit trembled. He looked at Zhuowen with fear and hatred, but did not dare to meet Zhuowen's eyes. The young man in front of him was simply too terrifying. Moreover, his spirit was now in the hands of this boy. If the latter wanted to destroy him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. How could that be? Lord Zhua, you are a true genius. Even I have to take a detour when I see you. How could I let you run away? Psycho Hongfei's face was pale. He revealed a fawning smile and said softly. At the same time, the moment Psycho Hongfei's spirit was forcibly pulled out by Zhuowen, Yuri and the others involuntarily looked at the spirit. Then their gazes instantly froze. Immediately after, they sucked in a deep breath of cold air. Old ancestor? Yuri's face was full of disbelief. He trembled as he called out tentatively. Senior Saiku? Xiao Zihui, Lung Yinyu, and the others were also dumbfounded. They even rubbed their eyes, suspecting that there was something wrong with their eyes. But when they realized that what they saw was not an illusion, they only felt a sense of suffocation engulf their bodies. An expert like Psycho Hongfei could actually smile like a weakling, and this smile was directed at Zhuowen, whom they did not care much about. They finally discovered that Psycho Hongfei's physical body no longer existed. What appeared before them was a dim and lightless spirit. They were not fools. They immediately realized that Psycho Hongfei had indeed been defeated by Zhuowen, and his spirit had not been able to escape and had been captured by Zhuowen. Chapter 4104. After a round of scolding, Psycho Hongfei finally put on a fawning smile and said to Zhuowen, Lord Zhuowen, ignorance is blameless. You don't have to be so calculative with him. Yuri's face alternated between green and white, and he fell completely silent. At this moment, his heart was filled with despair, and he was so scared that he could barely stand. What kind of monster was this Zhuowen? Even the guardian of the Goldwater realm had been defeated by him, and his life was in danger at any moment. Zhuowen coldly glanced at Psycho Hongfei. He knew very well what the latter was planning. Now, do you still think I'm talking big? Zhuowen's gaze fell on Yuri, and he grinned. Seeing the smile on Zhuowen's face, Yuri felt a chill in his heart. He didn't dare to meet Zhuowen's gaze, and he didn't say a word. Zhuowen's smile became even colder. He grabbed Yuri's head and lifted him up. What are you doing? Yuri's expression changed drastically, and he struggled to speak. Zhuowen's expression was cold, and he didn't answer Yuri's question. A powerful divine power poured out of his palm and poured into Yuri's head. Splat! Yuri's face twitched, and he struggled with all his might like a living fish on a dry riverbed. But all of this was useless. Before long, Yuri was bleeding from all of his orifices, and his divine soul had been completely annihilated by Zhuowen's power. Bang! Zhuowen casually tossed Yuri's corpse to the side. Xiao Zihui, Lung Yinyu, and the others felt a chill run down their spines and involuntarily knelt in front of Zhuowen. Lord Jua, I beg you to let us live. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai just now. Please be magnanimous and forgive us this time. At this moment, Xiao Zihui, Lung Yin and the others had already abandoned their dignity. They had cultivated for countless years to achieve what they had today. They did not want to die like this, so they simply knelt down and begged Zhuowen for mercy. But they were met with a long silence. Zhuowen looked down at Xiao Zihui and the others. The reason why he killed Yuri was to make an example of him. What he did was obviously very effective. Xiao Zihui, Lung Yin and the others who were originally unconvinced finally felt fear. And when a person was afraid, it was also when they were most vulnerable. If you want to live, then hand over your spiritual imprints. If you don't, I don't mind letting you meet Yuri in the underworld. Zhuowen said calmly. Xiao Zhe, Lung Yin and the others hesitated for a moment, then decisively handed over their spiritual imprints. When Zhuowen's gaze fell on Psycho Hongfei, who was in his spiritual imprint state, the latter only felt his scalp go numb. He sighed in his heart and also handed over his spiritual imprint. He knew very well that if he dared to be stubborn, with Zhuowen's means just now, he would kill him. After putting away Psycho Hongfei and the other's spiritual imprints, Zhuowen nodded with satisfaction and said with a faint smile, You are very sensible. As a reward, I plan to let you go. What? Psycho Hongfei, Xiao Zihui, and the others were stunned. They suspected that there was something wrong with their ears. Zhuowen actually let them go after taking away their spiritual imprints. What did this mean? Master Zhua, you're not joking with us, are you? Lung Yin asked doubtfully. Do I look like I'm joking? Zhuowen said coldly. Lung Yin quickly shut up and did not dare to say anything more. Don't worry, I'm not joking. I, Zhuowen, always do what I say. However, after I let you go, I have a request. Zhuowen said calmly. Psycho Hongfei and the others looked at each other. They did not have the slightest joy of being released. Instead, they were filled with uneasiness. After you go back, you're not allowed to reveal anything about me. You must first swear to the heavenly Tao, Zhuowen said seriously. Although Psycho Hongfei did not know what Zhuowen's purpose was, he knew that he could only do as he said. After they swore to the heavenly Tao, he waved his right hand and brought the 5 of them out of the macro world and onto the deck of the divine ship. At this moment, the deck of the divine ship was basically empty except for the people who were steering it. Most of the people had entered their cabins to cultivate in seclusion. Zhuowen took out 4 array discs and handed them to Xiao Zihui, Lung Yin Lung Fei, and Jian Wuqing. These are the teleportation array discs. After you activate them, these array discs will transport you to the Hushu realm. You can go now, Zhuowen said expressionlessly. Xiao Zihui and the others were completely dumbfounded. They really did not understand what Zhuowen was planning. Although they were confused, since Zhuowen had let them go, they naturally would not miss this opportunity. After thanking Zhuowen, the 4 of them activated the array discs and turned into 4 streaks of light, disappearing from the deck. After the 4 of them left, Zhuowen's gaze fell on the uneasy Psycho Hongfei. Psycho Hongfei, take these 4 divine soul marks. With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen took out the divine soul marks of Xiao Zihui and the others and handed them to Psycho Hongfei. This, Master, what are you? Psycho Hongfei looked at the 4 divine soul marks in his hand, his expression full of doubt and uneasiness. Psycho Hongfei, a wise man submits to circumstances. I leave the life and death of Xiao Zihui and the others to you. However, I have an important task for you. If you can complete this task, I will set you free. Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Are you serious? Psycho Hongfei asked hurriedly, his body trembling with excitement. Of course. Psycho Hongfei calmed down, looked at Zhuowen, and asked, Master, what do you want me to do? After you return to the Goldwater realm, help me monitor the Divine Eye realm and the Purple Illusion realm. You have to report any situation to me. When your injuries are completely healed, I need your strength to help me destroy Zhu Yangqi, Ling Xinghai, and the Ghost King." Zhuowen said. Psycho Hongfei's pupil shrank. He did not expect Zhuowen to be so ambitious. He actually wanted to destroy Zhu Yangqi and Ling Xinghai. Whether it was Zhu Yangqi or Ling Xinghai, their cultivations were not weaker than his. Although Zhuowen had defeated him before, that was when he was extremely weak, and he had coincidentally encountered Zhuowen's terrifying tribulation. In the end, he was defeated by Zhuowen. The Ghost King's true strength was definitely not weaker than Lu Yuanba's. In fact, he was even stronger. It was extremely difficult to destroy such an expert. "What? You're not willing?" Zhuowen glanced at the hesitant Psycho Hongfei and said coldly. Psycho Hongfei sighed softly in his heart. He knew that he had no choice but to stand on Zhuowen's side. "I'll leave Xiao Zihui and the others to you. After I return to the Hushu realm, the four of them must cooperate with us. No matter what method you use, you must make them betray their clans. If you can't do this well, wait for me to return. When I return, your head will fall to the ground." Zhuowen's eyes burst with cold, killing intent as he looked coldly at Psycho Hongfei. Chapter 4105. Recover your cultivation as soon as you return. If you can't help me after I return to the Hushu realm, I think you know better than me what will happen to you. Zhuowen took out a formation disc and tossed it to Psycho Hongfei before he spoke with a cold expression. Psycho Hongfei put away the formation disc. His heart trembled, and he nodded and bowed. "Go!" Zhuowen waved his hand. After receiving Zhuowen's order, Psycho Hongfei carefully took out the teleportation formation disc, turned into a white light, and disappeared from the deck. Zhuowen came to the edge of the deck and looked in the direction of the Hushu realm. In Huxley, the patriarchs fought to the death like moths to a flame. He also saw the expressions of the three great protectors and the 9 kings, who gave up their lives for the Hushu divine city. He also saw Lu Rinjue's words before he died. At this moment, they appeared in his mind, vivid in his mind. He wasn't a member of Huxley's clan, and he didn't even have much of a relationship with Huxley. But when he thought of these tragic scenes in his mind, he was deeply moved. These people who were willing to give up for their clansmen and beliefs were worthy of his respect. When his cultivation reached the level where he could truly kill a tribulation of universe expert, he would return to the Hushu realm and help Huxley rebuild their home. When that time came, he would go to the Pangu realm and seek justice for the countless members of the Pangu clan. Although he had no obligation to do so, he was willing to do what he could for these honorable people. In the following period of time, Zhuowen focused on cultivating in his cabin, consolidating his newly advanced ancient star transformation realm cultivation. A month later, Zhuowen abruptly opened his eyes, and his gaze was filled with joy. With a thought, he turned into a stream of light and entered the great world. In the sky above the island at the center of the great world, the fusion of the violet gold divine sword and the demon will had finally entered the final stage. At this moment, both the violet gold divine sword and the demon wheel had melted into liquid. The violet gold divine sword had turned into a purple gold liquid, while the demon wheel had turned into a pitch black liquid. The two liquids floated in the air, mixing and merging with each other. At this moment, Xiao He, the blood immortal sword, and the sacrificial death sword's weapon spirits were looking at the two liquids with serious expressions. Xiao He and the other two were constantly performing extremely complicated hand seals. One after another, runes that Zhuowen could not understand surged out from their hand seals and landed on the surface of the two liquids. As these strange runes landed on the liquid, the fusion speed of the two liquids that were originally fusing immediately sped up. Time slowly passed. Approximately 2 hours later, under the support of these strange symbols, the purple gold liquid and the black-colored liquid finally completely merged together. In midair, the fused liquid was a strange mixture of purple, black, and gold that constantly alternated with each other. Xiao He, who had a grave expression on her face, finally relaxed a little. Naturally, he also noticed Zhuan, who was observing them from a short distance away. Xiaohei chuckled and said, "Boy, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. The two types of astral weapons have finally completely merged together. Now, this is the original liquid of the astral weapon. In a few days, I will be able to forge this new astral weapon fragment. Speaking of which, what kind of weapon do you plan to forge this new astral weapon into? Is it still a divine sword?" The corners of Zhuo Wen's mouth revealed a hint of a smile, and he nodded and said, "It's still in the style of a divine sword. Also, Xiaohei, are you sure you want to become the weapon spirit of this astral weapon?" Zhuowen's expression suddenly became serious. He knew too little about the astral weapon fragment. Even the raw materials used to forge this astral weapon were extremely mysterious. He could not recognize them at all. He thought that Xiaohei's sudden decision to become the weapon spirit of the astral weapon fragment was filled with too many unknowns. Xiaohei grinned and said, "Don't worry. Have you forgotten that when you obtained the first astral weapon fragment, I had already started to study this thing? Although the material of the astral weapon fragment is extremely mysterious, and even I can't understand it, after such a long time of research, it's not like I didn't gain anything at all. In addition, your primordial stone can suppress the power of the astral weapon. The astral weapon will merge into one. It can be said that no matter how low the level of the astral weapon in your hands is, its potential is endless. And as a weapon cultivator, this endless possibility is the most suitable material for me." Although Zhuowen was still a little worried, what Xiaohei said was indeed the truth. As a weapon cultivator, Xiaohei's talent was actually not that great, and he did not have Zhuowen's luck. If there were no accidents, Xiaohei's highest achievement would only be the heaven-breaking realm. If he wanted to continue to break through and enter the great carefree realm, it would probably be very difficult. But the astral weapon had opened another door for him, and this door was endless potential. If Xiaohei could succeed, then his achievements would be very astonishing. "Xiaohei, be careful. I'll be here to guard you. If there's an accident, I'll take action immediately," Zhuowen said with a solemn expression. Xiaohei nodded, and there was gentleness in the depths of his eyes. "Let's not talk for now. This Dragon Lord is going to refine this astral weapon first. Before I enter, I must forge the divine sword." As Xiaohei spoke, he swept back to the ball of liquid and began to refine the astral weapon. That ball of liquid was rebellious, and it emitted extremely terrifying power ripples that spread in all directions. Fortunately, Zhuowen had given Xiaohei the Great Word Stone and Great Word Stone to protect Xiaohei and the others. Therefore, they were not too affected by this powerful energy ripple. As time passed, the astral weapon source liquid gradually took shape under the efforts of Xiaohei and the others, and it began to take the shape of a sword embryo. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, after another month, the sword embryo was finally refined into an incomparably sharp divine sword. The divine sword was pitch black, and on the pitch black sword body, there was a purple gold light that wandered back and forth on the surface of the divine sword like water ripples. It looked full of mystery and noble elegance. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that the pressure emitted by this sword was extremely powerful. He could clearly feel that the moment this sword was forged, the whole world seemed to shake, and then countless creatures knelt on the ground one after another, crying in fear and grief. Sure enough, after fusing with the evil ghost devil wheel, the divine sword really reached the level of a 7th rank astral weapon. Zhuowen said to himself in surprise. Roar. Chapter 4106. Xiaohei. He's planning to take over the sword. Zhuowen looked at Xiaohei, who had revealed his true form, and his gaze suddenly became much more serious. Now was the most critical moment. If Xiaohei could successfully take over and become the sword spirit of the sword, then the power of the sword would increase. In that case, the sword's power would rise to a whole new level, and it would also become more spiritual. It would no longer be like before, where it was like an inanimate object. Whoosh! The black dragon roared and fell from the sky, completely entering the black sword. Then, Zhuan saw that the surface of the black sword, which had been motionless before, suddenly surged with intense purple, black, and gold light. The intense light seemed to be able to pierce through the entire sky. The entire macro world was enveloped by the three-colored light, and it was everywhere. At the same time, the black divine sword began to go berserk, erupting with extremely terrifying energy and rampaging in the macro world. Zhuan's expression changed slightly. Fortunately, he was already prepared. He took out several array discs. Instantly, the area within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was enveloped by powerful array patterns, forming a terrifying cage. The black sword was extremely terrifying. It swept to the edge of the array and suddenly slashed out. Terrifying sword light swept out like a tsunami, instantly crushing many array patterns. Zhuan's gaze was serious, but he did not panic. Instead, he moved all 10 of his fingers and began to set up new array patterns to strengthen the defensive power of the array. Wherever the black sword destroyed, Zhuan quickly repaired it. He was barely able to trap the black sword, preventing it from rushing out and destroying the rest of the macro world. Roar! 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 At the same time, waves of dragon roars came from the black sword. Obviously, it would not be easy for Xiao He to take over the black sword completely. Little blood, little still, quickly come and help me. Not long after, Xiao He's anxious voice came from the black sword. Then, the weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword, who were watching the battle, rushed into the array without hesitation and entered the black sword. Boom! Boom! Black sword struggled even more intensely, but Zhuan could feel that black sword's aura was gradually weakening. As time passed, black sword's struggles became much weaker, like a sickly and withered seedling. Clang! Not long after, the black sword's aura became faintly discernible, and it fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Zhuan silently looked at black sword, but he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that Xiao He and the others had succeeded. Sure enough, not long after, the originally weak black sword's aura suddenly changed, rising steadily. An intense dragon roar continuously resounded from the black sword, piercing through the clouds. At the same time, on the surface of the black sword that was as smooth as a mirror, the pattern of a black dragon slowly appeared. It looked very lifelike. Whoosh! The black sword soared into the sky and floated in front of Zhuan. Its aura was no longer overbearing, but rather much more intimate. Kid, what do you think? I was right, wasn't I? I can become the weapon spirit of this astral weapon. Xiao He flew out a black sword, sat on the sword hilt, and looked at Zhuan proudly. The weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword were like standard underlings, standing on both sides of Xiao He, without blinking. Zhuan gave Xiao He a thumbs up. This time, Xiao He had indeed contributed the most to the successful fusion of the two astral weapons. It seems that after becoming the weapon spirit of this astral weapon, you will gain a lot of benefits. Zhuan sized up Xiao He. He keenly noticed that Xiao He's aura had become stronger than before, and he was probably not far from a breakthrough. Hee. The benefits of an astral weapon are indeed great. I just took control of it, and its surging energy rushed into my body. I'm afraid that I will soon break through the demonic transformation. Xiao He was very happy. Zhuan nodded. With the help of the astral weapon, Zhuan believed that Xiao He would break through again in a short period of time, reaching the ancient star transformation, and even reaching the threshold of the great calamity of heaven and earth. After all, the weapon that Xiao He took control of was a rank 7 astral weapon, and its power was extraordinary. All right, because Little Blood Fairy and Little G refined this sword with me. They seem to have become part of the weapon spirit of this sword. Xiao He suddenly said, looking a little embarrassed. Zhuan looked at the blood immortal sword and the sacrifice of death sword, who were standing respectfully behind Blackie. Sensing Zhuan's gaze, the two weapon spirits smiled embarrassedly and hurriedly nodded and bowed. It's good to have their help. You can quickly master this sword. Zhuan nodded and did not say anything. The weapon spirits of the Blood Fairy sword and the Death Sacrifice sword let out a sigh of relief. Xiaohe nodded and continued. "Oh right, boy. The power of this sword should be above the evil ghost demonic wheel. Why don't you give it a name? After all, this will be your exclusive astral weapon in the future." Zhuan was stunned. Speaking of which, ever since he'd obtained the astral weapon and discovered the fusion function of the astral weapon from the primordial stone, even though he'd fused it several times, he seemed to have never given the astral weapon a name. Zhuan thought for a while and said with a smile, "Then let's call it the Taiyu Sacred Sword." Hearing this, Xiaohe could not help but be a little stunned. Then he laughed and said, "That's a good name. The Taiyu Sacred Sword suits my name very well. Okay, I'll go first. You two slowly familiarize yourselves with this sword. When you have completely mastered it, let me know," Zhuan said with a smile. "Got it," Xiaohe said casually. Looking at Zhuan's back, a trace of gentleness and gratitude flashed in his eyes. This boy really came up with this name. "Boss, you are the Taiyu Sacred Dragon, and this sword is called the Taiyu Sacred Sword. It suits you so well." Yes. This sword was specially made for you, boss. In the future, you will be the leader of the weapon cultivators. As your followers, we feel very proud." The weapon spirits of the Blood Fairy sword and the Death Sacrifice sword gathered in front of Xiaohe and kept flattering him. Go. Now that the two of you are part of the Taiyu Sacred Sword's weapon spirits, follow me in the future and you will naturally live a good life. As long as I have meat to eat, I will definitely give you soup." Xiaohe smiled proudly and re-entered the Taiyu Sacred Sword, surrounded by the two weapon spirits. After all, this sword was a fragment of a level 7 astral weapon, and its power could not be underestimated. If they wanted to master this sword, they had to cultivate and become stronger as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the time came, they, as weapon spirits, could not control this sword. Wouldn't they become decorations? After Zhuan left the great world, there was a knock on the cabin door. When he opened the door, he found Sa Mei standing outside. "Senior Zhua, we are almost at the Radiant Realm. The Patriarch asked me to call you up," Sa Mei said. Chapter 4107. On the deck of the ship, Huxley's people had already gathered together. In front of this group of people, Shan Lingyun's petite figure formed a strong contrast. Although Shan Lingyun was a little girl, she had a strong aura. As she stood there, Huxley's people stood respectfully and did not dare to say a word. When Zhuan came to the deck, he saw this strange scene. The moment the little girl saw Zhuan, all the restraint on her face disappeared. She revealed an extremely bright smile. Immediately after, Zhuan helplessly realized that Shan Lingyun was walking over quickly. She jumped up and rode on Zhuan's shoulder. "Disciple, you are really too much. In this 1 month, you have been in seclusion. I want to look for you a few times, but you did not respond. Are you that busy?" Shan Lingyun's cheeks were puffed up. She seemed to be angry. Zhuan scratched his head and could only explain casually. Only then did this little girl calm down. On the other hand, the Huxley's people were not surprised by this scene. They all cupped their hands and bowed to Zhuan. Zhuan nodded slightly. He carried Shan Lingyun and came to the bow of the ship. "Junior Zhua, the border of the light boundary is right in front. After all, the light boundary is a middle-level boundary. It is not like a low-level boundary. Its security is much tighter. At the border, there are powerful cultivator armies stationed there." Tua Shang came to Zhuan's side and pointed to the front as he said in a low voice. Zhuan looked in the direction that Tua Shang was pointing at. There, he saw an extremely vast territory. Moreover, there was not a single place in this territory that was dark. Almost every place was filled with intense light. The light boundary is inhabited by the Light Tribe. They are born with the ability to dispel darkness. Moreover, The light boundary is rich in fluorite. Therefore, almost all the buildings in the light boundary are built with fluorite. Tuosheng looked at Zhuowen with a look of surprise. He quickly explained with a surprised look on his face. All the buildings are built with fluorite. How rich! Zhuowen clicked his tongue in wonder. He had been in the 100 outer domains for so long, so he naturally knew how expensive fluorite was. In many low-level places, an entire tribe's method of dispelling the darkness was always to use a stone statue made of fluorite. Moreover, these stone statues were usually passed down from generation to generation and were regarded as the treasures of the clan. Even some of the major forces were not so extravagant that almost every building was built with fluorite. However, the light domain was excessively extravagant. All the buildings in the entire domain were made of fluorite. This was indeed a little extravagant. Of course, this was also because the radiant domain had a huge fluorite vein. We're here. As Tuosheng spoke, the divine ship slowly descended. What appeared in front of them was a huge city wall that was emitting light. At this moment, the cultivator army within the city walls also discovered Zhuowen's group of uninvited guests. Someone immediately led a group of cultivators to stop in front of the divine ship. Who are you? The leader of the cultivator army was a middle-aged man. His body was sturdy and his aura was full. There were fiend god shadows surging around him. He was an expert in the fiend god transformation realm. Zhuowen was shocked because an expert in the fiend god transformation realm was only the leader of a small team. If this were the Hushu domain, such an expert would have already taken up an important position in the core region of the Hushu domain. There was no way he would just be a small team leader at the border. It seems that a mid-level domain's foundation is much deeper than a low-level domain's. Zhuowen sighed inwardly, then led the group down the divine ship. The middle-aged man stared intently at Zhuowen. He discovered that the latter's aura was extremely vigorous, far stronger than his own. He knew that the youth in front of him was definitely an ancient star transformation realm expert. Therefore, his expression became rather serious, and he was no longer as casual as before. Zhuowen cupped his hands at the middle-aged man and said with a smile, "Brother, we are from the Hushu domain and have specially come to the light domain to seek refuge. I hope that you can make an exception for us." As he spoke, Zhuowen took out a heaven-breaking level 7 divine medicine and secretly handed it to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's brows twitched slightly, and he kept the divine medicine without a trace. There was a trace of a smile on his face. "So you're here to seek refuge. I've heard that the Hushu domain is not very peaceful, but if you want to enter the light domain, you have to pay a border crossing fee, and it's calculated by the number of people." The middle-aged man's tone was gentle. Zhuowen looked at Tuosheng beside him. Seeing the latter nod, he knew that the middle-aged man was not trying to extort him. "How many crystals?" Zhuowen asked. 3 million crystals per person." The middle-aged man said indifferently, "What? I remember that the border crossing fee to the light domain is only 1 million crystals. Why is it 3 million crystals now?" Tuosheng frowned slightly. The middle-aged man was obviously very displeased with Tuosheng's tone. He snorted coldly and said, "That was the price in the past. Recently, the Light Clan has issued a new decree, which clearly states that the border crossing fee has been raised to 3 million crystals. After all, there are many refugees from the Hushu domain, and it's not a big deal for you. If you think it's too expensive, please leave." The middle-aged man said impatiently. Zhuowen frowned slightly. It seemed that the light domain was taking the opportunity to earn money from the refugees of the Hushu domain. This temporary increase in the border crossing fee was obviously targeted at the cultivators who had fled from the Hushu domain. "Okay, we'll calculate according to this price." Zhuowen waved his sleeve, took out a large pile of chaos crystals, and handed them to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man checked and found that there was no mistake. He put away the crystals and said indifferently, "You can go in." Zhuowen nodded and led everyone back to the divine ship, while the middle-aged man opened a restriction at the border. Whoosh! The divine ship turned into a stream of light and rushed into the light domain. In the light domain, only the most prosperous city, the light divine city, has the existence of the space-time beast. We need to go to the light domain, Tua Shang suggested in a low voice. Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Among them, only Tua Shang had been to the light domain before. Therefore, Tua Shang was the most familiar with the light domain among them. Under Tua Shang's lead, the divine ship docked at the nearest city. Then, through the teleportation formation in the city, they were directly transmitted to the light divine city. Chapter 4108. This is the outer city of the light divine city. It is specially built for the living beings and practitioners of the light region to do business and live here. Tua Shang explained to Zhuowen. Through Tua Shang's introduction, Zhuowen knew that the main part of the light divine city was the inner city. The inner city was much bigger than the outer city. It was also very mysterious and was hidden in a secret space. Other than the light region, no one else knew where the inner city of the light divine city was. Both sides of the streets were filled with shops and stalls. There were all kinds of items on display, such as divine weapons, divine medicine, divine elixirs, and all kinds of good materials. Shan Lingyun, on the other hand, was very interested. She looked around, and her big watery eyes were full of twinkling stars. Soon, she realized that she had lost her composure. She curled her lips and became serious again. She said to Tua Shang, bring us to the place where the space-time beast is kept. Tua Shang nodded and led the group through a few streets. Their group attracted a lot of attention as they walked on the street. Many people turned to look at them. Tua Shang stopped in front of a huge temple in the west of the city and said in a deep voice, "This is the space-time temple. It's where the space-time beasts are kept. Many people ride the space-time beast from here." After some negotiation, the person in charge of the space-time temple came out and welcomed Zhuowen and the group in. "Esteemed guests, may I know which domain you plan to visit this time?" The person in charge was a beautiful woman with a hot body. She was wearing a thin, tight cheongsam that showed off her figure. There was a hint of charm on her pretty face as she sat on the wooden chair and looked at Zhuowen charmingly. Shan Lingyun curled her lips and scolded her in her heart. She said, "We are going to the magical region. What is the price?" The beautiful woman looked at the petite Shan Lingyun in astonishment. She didn't expect this little girl to speak first. Did that mean that this little lowly was the leader of this group of people? The beautiful woman quickly regained her composure. She smiled tenderly and said, "Recently, it's the peak season for space-time beast rides. The price is twice as high as usual. It's about 200,000 spar per person. I see that there are more than 300 of you here. I can give you a discount. Even if there are 300 of you, it will be 60 million crystal stones in total." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This beautiful woman was really asking for an exorbitant price. They knew from Tua Shang that the normal price of space-time beast was only 100,000 crystal stones. Now, she had actually doubled the price. "Manager, isn't your price a bit too high?" "It's actually doubled." Tua Shang frowned. The beautiful woman spread out her hands and said helplessly, "This is the market price. If you think it's too expensive, you can look elsewhere." Zhuowen frowned. He knew from Tua Shang that in the light region, only the space-time temple had space-time divine beasts. If they were to search elsewhere, wouldn't they have to go to other mid-level domains to search? Then this is the price. Zhuowen said indifferently. He understood that the current situation was different from the past. The light region was taking advantage of others' weakness, and it was monopolized. They had no choice but to accept this price. The beautiful woman smiled sweetly and said, "Little brother is really a straightforward person." Next, after Zhuowen paid the 60 million crystal stones, the beautiful woman informed them that the space-time divine beast heading to the Magus God domain would set off in 3 days. She asked them to come back to the space-time temple 3 days later. Zhuowen and the others temporarily stayed in the outer city of the light divine city. The expenses during this period of time are a bit terrifying. Zhuowen looked at the piles of crystal stones in the outside world that were being rapidly consumed and couldn't help but reveal a wry smile. Fortunately, most of the resources in Psycho Hongfei's universe world had been obtained by him, so his wealth was still relatively rich. Otherwise, he might have had to pay for the expenses in the light region. 3 days later, Zhuowen and the others arrived at the space-time temple as promised. The beautiful woman who received them was still the same as 3 days ago. She smiled and led Zhuowen and the others into the space-time temple. In the depths of the space-time temple, there was an extremely large open space. In the open space, there were many divine pillars that were so thick that it would take several people to wrap their arms around them. The surface of each divine pillar was engraved with dense and strange patterns. At the same time, the top of the divine pillar was connected to a thick divine chain. On the surface of the divine chain, there were strong bolts of lightning surging, and the aura it exuded was vast and powerful. The gazes of Zhuowen and the others couldn't help but be attracted by the divine chains that were connected to the divine pillars. At the end of the divine chains was an incomparably huge beast that was tied up. This beast was oval in shape, and its body was covered with strange scales. There were also fins on the sides of its body. What was even more strange was that when the beast's fins swayed, the surrounding space was distorted and collapsed. Time seemed to have stopped. What powerful space-time energy! Is this the space-time beast? Zhuowen muttered softly as he looked at the beast that was tied up by the divine chains. His gaze became extremely solemn. One had to admit that the space-time beast's control of space-time energy was much stronger than that of human cultivators. It was no wonder that it could travel freely in the space-time turbulence. Manager Lin. At the front of the open space, a man in a black robe came forward and bowed respectfully to the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman nodded and introduced him to Zhuowen and the others with a smile. Everyone, this is the beast tamer of this space-time beast. You can call him Dark. The man in the black robe looked at Zhuowen and the others indifferently. He only nodded and didn't say anything. Shan Lingyun frowned slightly. This man in the black robe was too rude. He didn't even greet them. The beautiful woman smiled and said, Dark's character is like this. He is a man of few words and doesn't like to talk much. Don't mind him too much. As she spoke, the beautiful woman looked at the man in the black robe and said, Dark, can the space-time beast depart? It can depart at any time. Let the guests follow me onto the space-time beast. Dark nodded and then said to Zhuowen and the others, Follow me. As he spoke, Dark kicked his right foot and flew straight up. He flew along the nearest divine chain and quickly charged towards the space-time beast. Zhuowen and the others also flew out and followed closely behind. After Dark entered the divine chain, the powerful divine lightning that was released on the surface of the divine chain also disappeared. It didn't cause any harm to Zhuowen and the others. When they flew onto the space-time beast, they realized that there were many pavilions and towers on the back of the space-time beast. At a glance, it looked like a small city. Zhuowen and the others even saw that in some of the pavilions, there were many cultivators chatting and drinking merrily. There were also some who were calling their friends, and some who stopped to look outside. These guests are also going to the magical realm, just like all of you. Dark said. Zhuowen and the others were enlightened. Obviously, they weren't the only group that was going to the magical realm. Chapter 4109. Disciple, why do you keep looking at that pavilion? Shan Lingyun noticed the strange expression on Zhuowen's face and could not help but ask. Zhuowen shook his head and said, I must have seen wrongly. It's fine. Shan Lingyun curled her lips and did not pursue the matter further. Everyone, the space-time divine beast is about to depart. Take your receipts and check in according to the rooms allocated on the receipts. Do not get the wrong room. Otherwise, We will not be responsible for any problems. Lady Dark said indifferently and headed straight for the space-time behemoth's head. Juon and the rest were stunned. Lady Dark's attitude was too bad. She did not even lead them to their rooms. Instead, she wanted them to search for their rooms. Juon took out the receipt on him. On it was written 3rd grade room 10. The receipt was given to them by the beautiful woman after Juon had paid the crystal stones. Each of them had one receipt. The rooms on the space-time behemoth were also divided into grades. They were A, B, C, and D, with it being the highest and D being the lowest. As the A rooms were too expensive and D rooms were too simple, Juon bought a 3rd grade room. It was just right. Disciple, I am right next to you. Shanlingyun came over and looked at Juon's receipt. She smiled and immediately showed the receipt in her hand to Juon. On the receipt in Shanlingyun's hand, the words 3rd grade room 9 were written. Juon rubbed Shanlingyun's head and led the rest to the 3rd grade room. As they had bought the tickets together, their rooms were basically next to each other. Juon came to the door of 3rd grade room 10. He brushed the receipt on a magical array in front of the door, and the door opened automatically. Not long after Juon entered the room, a figure appeared outside the door. It was pacing back and forth as if it was hesitating. Who is it? Juon asked loudly. I'm a messenger. Can you open the door? A young female voice came from outside the door. Juon's eyes flickered, but he still walked forward and opened the door. Outside the door stood a young girl in a pink dress. She was looking around timidly, seeming rather nervous. After the door opened, the girl let out a low cry and involuntarily took a few steps back. Deliver a letter? It was only then that Juon noticed that the girl was holding an unopened envelope. Is your name Juon? The young lady in the silk dress asked. I am Juon. How do you know my room number and name? And who asked you to deliver the letter to me? Juon's eyes were like torches as he coldly looked at the young girl. Juon did not recognize the girl in front of him, but she actually knew his name. This caused a chill to rise in his heart. If it weren't for the fact that the young lady's aura wasn't that strong, and that she was only in the yin-yang transformation, Juon would have already made his move. The girl was frightened by Juon's tone. She suddenly stuttered, and a trace of mist rose in her eyes. I'm just a messenger. It was the messenger who told me your room number and name. Why are you so fierce? And I don't know who the messenger is, but he's a big shot. He is a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. He is not to be trifled with. The girl seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. She curled her lips and said with some righteous indignation. Juon's pupil shrank. He did not expect that the person who delivered the letter to him was at the great carefree realm. Taking the envelope, Juon silently looked at the girl's back as she left. His face revealed a thoughtful expression. He opened the seal of the envelope. Suddenly, a divine thought floated out of the envelope and entered Juon's mind. Come to the Agarwood Pavilion in the A-Zone. I will wait for you on the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. As the divine thought disappeared, the envelope in Juon's hand burned by itself. What a familiar divine thought. Juon muttered to himself, but a strange light burst out from his eyes. He did not hesitate for long before leaving the room and heading to the A-Zone. The Agarwood Pavilion was extremely famous in the A-Zone. Therefore, Juon immediately found the address of the Agarwood Pavilion after asking around. May I ask if the young master is Juon? As soon as Juon arrived at the entrance of the Agarwood Pavilion, a charming and beautiful woman came out of the Agarwood Pavilion. She looked at Juon softly and asked. Juon did not answer the beautiful woman's question. Instead, his powerful divine thought swept into the Agarwood Pavilion like a storm. The Agarwood Pavilion was an extremely famous restaurant in the area. Not only was it famous for its wine and delicacies, but the geisha here were also multi-talented and beautiful. Generally, those who could afford to stay in the A-Zone rooms were either powerful or held high positions. Therefore, the Agarwood Pavilion was extremely popular. The moment Juon's divine thought swept out, the beautiful woman who was greeting Juon suddenly changed her expression. Young master, please don't do this. Quickly withdraw your divine thought. The beautiful woman said in a panic. As soon as the beautiful woman finished speaking, waves of powerful divine thought gathered in the Agarwood pavilion like a storm and fell on Zhuan. Zhuan's eyelids twitched. He found that most of the masters of the divine thought were ancient star transformation experts, and the number was quite shocking. One arrogant boy, how dare you use your divine thought to explore the Agarwood pavilion? Are you courting death? Humph! Where did this country bumpkin come from? Don't you know the rules of the Agarwood pavilion? How dare you use your divine thought so casually? Are you courting death? Waves of unfriendly divine thought descended like a huge mountain, crushing Zhuan's body. The beautiful woman's face turned pale with fright. She secretly thought that it was over. The VIPs of the Agarwood pavilion were all rich and powerful. Zhuan's unruly use of his divine thought to explore the entire Agarwood pavilion would incur the wrath of everyone. Even she would not be able to suppress it. Everyone, please calm down. This young master is new here and does not know the rules, so... The beautiful woman quickly smiled apologetically and bowed to the Agarwood pavilion. Her face was slightly pale. Humph! Even if he is new and does not know the rules, it is the same. We must teach this newbie a lesson. Otherwise, if anyone comes here and uses their divine thought, why will we come to the Agarwood pavilion in the future? Are you looking for trouble? Yes. The rules cannot be broken. We can't let him off the hook just because he is new. Waves of divine thought gathered, and all of them were extremely dissatisfied. Some were even gloating. The beautiful woman wiped the cold sweat on her forehead and smiled bitterly. This was really difficult. After all, it was difficult to provoke the wrath of the crowd. Chapter 41:10. Humph! Suddenly, a cold snort came from the top floor of the Agarwood pavilion. It was like a heavenly power that shrouded the entire Agarwood pavilion. Because of this cold snort, the divine thoughts that were originally discussing quieted down. This aura, this pressure, was simply too strong. It made them feel as if the sky was falling down. It's the Lord on the top floor. Inside the Agarwood pavilion, someone whispered to himself, trembling with fear. Before they entered the Agarwood pavilion, they had been informed that the top floor of the Agarwood pavilion had been reserved by a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. Who would dare to offend such an expert? This person is a distinguished guest that I have invited. If you're dissatisfied or unhappy, feel free to tell me. I will give you an explanation. A calm voice came slowly from the top floor of the Agarwood pavilion. Although the voice was calm, it was like a thunderclap, exploding in everyone's mind and deafening their ears. Everyone's heart trembled, and they all resentfully gave up and fell silent. The person on the top floor was a great figure of the great carefree realm. How would they have the guts to ask him for an explanation? Wasn't that courting death? So it's the Lord's friend. It's a misunderstanding. We were just joking. Don't take it to heart. Yes, everyone makes mistakes. This young master is still a newcomer, so it's understandable that he doesn't know the rules. They all withdrew their divine thoughts and explained to the Agarwood pavilion. They no longer dared to criticize Zhuan. The beautiful woman breathed a sigh of relief. Her beautiful eyes looked curiously at Zhuan. As the manager of the Agarwood pavilion, she knew very well how powerful and honorable the person on the top floor was. Moreover, he was extremely domineering in dealing with people. She did not expect that in order to help Zhuan out, that person was willing to come in person. It could be seen that the young man in front of her held a high position in that person's heart. Zhuan's eyes became extremely dignified. He raised his head and silently looked at the top floor of the Agarwood pavilion. There, by the bamboo window, there was a reflection of a deep figure. What a powerful divine sense. This person is probably even stronger than Saika Hongfei and Zhu Yangqi. Zhuan's gaze was solemn. Saika Hongfei and the other two were all in the middle stage of the great tribulation of universe. And this person gave him an even stronger feeling. Wouldn't that mean that he was at least an expert in the late stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe? Thinking of this, Zhuowen's heart sank. He did not know any experts with such cultivation. Zhuowen still couldn't tell whether this person was friend or foe. Young master, that lord is waiting for you on the top floor. Come with me. The beautiful woman leisurely walked in front of Zhuowen. Her soft and delicate hands gently held onto Zhuowen's hand as she led him into the Agarwood pavilion. Zhuowen's brows furrowed slightly. He gently shook off the beautiful woman's hand and said indifferently, "I'll just follow behind you." The beautiful woman didn't feel awkward at all. She calmly led the way in front. The Agarwood pavilion had a total of 7 floors. From the bottom to the top, the decorations were getting more and more luxurious. Without a doubt, the higher the floor of the Agarwood pavilion, the more luxurious the decorations were. Of course, the higher the price. When they reached the top floor, the beautiful woman respectfully said outside the door, "Sir, I have invited young Master Zhuowen here." Inside the room, there was no response for a long time. The beautiful woman had said it for the second time. Finally, a low and hoarse voice was heard. "Understand. You can leave." The beautiful woman nodded. She didn't dare to stay any longer. She glanced at Zhuowen and hurriedly left. "Brother Zhuo, long time no see. Your cultivation progress is actually so fast. It's beyond my expectations." After the beautiful woman left, the voice in the room rang out again. However, this time, the voice was no longer hoarse and low. Instead, it was filled with a young and loud voice. Hearing this voice, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. Could it be Brother Duan? Zhuowen hesitated slightly and asked tentatively, "Ha, Brother Zhuo, you have a good memory. You can still remember my voice. Come in." Hearty laughter came from inside the room. Then, the originally closed door was immediately opened. Through the door, it could be seen that the area of this box was very large. There were 5 rooms with gorgeous decorations. In front of the hall, a figure was standing and looking at Zhuowen with a smile. It was a handsome young man. His white robe was slightly fluttering, and he looked natural and unrestrained. This person was Duan Jiping, whom Zhuowen had saved outside the boundary of the starry sky. "It's really you, Brother Duan. I haven't seen you for a long time. You have already stepped into the great freedom realm." Zhuowen laughed, stepped into the hall, and gave Duan Jiping a big bear hug. Duan Jiping generously hugged Zhuowen back. The corners of his eyes were full of smiles. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land naturally added a sense of closeness. Moreover, Zhuowen and Duan Jiping had gone through life and death together. Although they didn't get along for long, their friendship was not shallow. "Take a seat." Duan Jiping waved his sleeve and closed the door again. Then, he led Zhuowen to a seat. He flipped his right hand, and a white jade wine pot and 2 white jade wine cups appeared on the table. He filled the 2 white jade wine cups to the brim, and then said with a smile, "Compared to Brother Zhuo, what is this little bit of achievement of mine?" Zhuowen didn't comment. He remembered that when he first met Duan Jiping was only at the God Realm. At that time, he was being chased by Venerable Hong Rue of the Nuwa clan. Both of them were heavily injured and almost died. At the critical moment, he schemed to let Venerable Hong Rue enter the Starry Sky. With the help of the Starry Sky's rules, he killed the heavily injured Venerable Hong Rue and saved Duan Jiping's life. Since Duan Jiping was able to reach the great carefree realm from the God Realm on the day they met again, he must have had a lot of opportunities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to advance so quickly. Brother Duan, you must be joking. Speaking of which, the one who should really thank you is me. If it weren't for you, the Starry Sky would have been destroyed by the Nuwa clan. Zhuowen smiled. Back then, Duan Jiping used his astral weapon, the Dark Chakra Eye, to help him conceal Venerable Hong Rue's aura. Thus, the Nuwa clan's great senior couldn't find the place where Venerable Hong Rue died. This gave the Starry Sky a chance to survive. Therefore, he was sincerely grateful for what Duan Jiping had done for him and the Starry Sky. Haha, that's what I should do. Speaking of which, Brother Joie, with your speed of improvement, you won't need 10,000 years. I'm afraid you'll be able to reach the great carefree realm within 1,000 years. Then, you'll be more than enough to protect the starry sky. You might even be able to build a base in the 100 domains outside the starry sky. That's a big force. Chapter 4111. Brother Duan, you should have recognized me when I first entered the space-time beast, right? Zhuowen said to Duan Jiping with a smile as he toyed with a white jade cup in his hand. Earlier, when he first entered the space-time beast, he saw a familiar figure. It should be Duan Jiping. However, Zhuowen found it strange that Duan Jiping didn't come out to meet him when he recognized him. Instead, he sent someone to secretly send him a letter to meet him at the Agarwood Pavilion. Duan Jiping nodded and said, Brother Joie, your divine senses are really sharp. You can actually sense my aura. At that time, I did see you, but I couldn't openly acknowledge you. At this point, Duan Jiping's expression became very serious. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, Is it because of the Nuwa clan? Duan Jiping nodded and said, The Dark Chakra I is an extremely powerful set of complete astral weapons of the Nuwa clan. Its power is much stronger than many astral weapon fragments. The Nuwa clan will never give up on such an item. As a result, the Nuwa clan has been hunting me down since the beginning, and they've been hunting me down. This is also why I was so cautious when I saw you. Zhuowen nodded. He had heard about the enmity between Duan Jiping and the Nuwa clan from Duan Jiping. The daughter of the Grand Master, concubine Yun, fell in love with Duan Jiping. She wanted to recruit Duan Jiping, but rejected the marriage. The main reason was that concubine Yun had a complete astral weapon like the Dark Chakra I in her body. In the future, the Grand Master would completely control the Dark Chakra I by sacrificing it to concubine Yun. Unfortunately, in order to save Duan Jiping, concubine Yun sacrificed herself and gave the Dark Chakra I to Duan Jiping. This helped Duan Jiping escape the pursuit of the Nuwa clan. The Nuwa clan would never give up on the Dark Chakra I. Therefore, they would continue to hunt down Duan Jiping until they captured him. Duan Jiping definitely wouldn't let the Nuwa clan off either. He had to avenge his wife's death. Under the intense pursuit of the Nuwa clan, Duan Jiping naturally didn't dare to openly acknowledge Zhuowen. Otherwise, not only would his tracks be exposed, he would even implicate Zhuowen. Brother Duan, just how powerful is the Nuwa clan? Can you tell me a thing or two? Zhuowen's expression became rather solemn. Even with Duan Jiping's current level of cultivation, he was still so cautious. The strength of the Nuwa clan was probably beyond his expectations. Duan Jiping was silent for a moment before he sighed and said, Brother Joie, I'm sure you're aware of the hierarchy of the 100 outer domains. Zhuowen nodded and said, I've heard that the 100 outer domains are divided into 5 levels, namely the low level, the medium level, the high level, the super level, and the invincible level. What level is the Nuwa domain? The Nuwa domain is a high-level domain, and the Grand Master of the Nuwa clan is the guardian of the Nuwa domain. His cultivation has already reached the reverse ancient starlight realm. Duan Jiping smiled bitterly. What? Reverse ancient starlight realm? Zhuowen gasped. The reverse ancient starlight realm was the 3rd level of the great carefree realm. It was far more powerful than the universal calamity realm. He had never imagined that the Grand Master of the Nuwa clan would be so powerful. No wonder Duan Jiping was still so cautious after reaching the great carefree realm. Through Duan Jiping's narration, Zhuowen gradually gained a general understanding of the distribution of the 100 outer domains. The levels of a domain were divided according to the cultivation of the strongest expert in each domain. For example, there were only 5 invincible domains in the 100 outer domains. They were the most powerful domains in the 100 outer domains, and they all had the strongest experts in the all-in-one domain. It was said that the Abyss domain which was publicly recognized as the #1 domain, was suspected to have an expert at the peak of all in one domain who was already standing at the peak of the 100 outer domains. And such an expert was said to have a slight possibility of coming into contact with the immemorial star system. The immemorial star system was high and mighty, ruling the entire vast and boundless chaotic starry sky. Many creatures, in their whole lives, were just to be able to step into the mysterious star system. Because in the immemorial star system, there was a supreme power and the secret of immortality. However, the immemorial star system was too far away for most creatures. It was an existence that they could only look at, but not reach. And the strongest expert in the abyss domain had a slight possibility of coming into contact with the immemorial star system. This was already extremely amazing. "Brother Duan, what is your realm?" Zhuan glanced at Duan Jiping and asked curiously. "My current cultivation is only at the peak of the universal calamity realm. I haven't even reached the cosmic Dharma idol. There is still a huge gap between me and the more powerful reverse ancient starlight. But I am confident that as long as I can successfully break through and eventually condense the cosmic Dharma idol, and then rely on the power of the star weapon Dar Chakra, I will have the power to protect myself in the face of the Nuwa clan's pursuit. At that time, I won't have to be so scared, hiding from place to place." Duan Jiping revealed a wry smile. Obviously, he also felt tired of these days of hiding. Zhuan nodded. Although he was not in the Great Carefree Realm, he also knew that in the Great Carefree Realm, the difficulty of cultivation was definitely much higher than in the Heaven-Breaking Realm. With Duan Jiping's talent, if he cultivated normally, it would probably take an immeasurable amount of time to finally break through the cosmic Dharma idol. And if Duan Jiping wanted to break through in a short time, he could only obtain a great opportunity. "Brother Duan, I think you should have other things besides catching up with me," Zhuan said slowly, his deep eyes silently looking at Duan Jiping. Duan Jiping smiled embarrassedly and said, "Brother Zhua, your observation skills are indeed very sharp. You're right. I called you here not only to catch up with you, but also to tell you something. To be more precise, I want to give you a good fortune." "Creation?" Zhuo Wen's eyes were filled with surprise. Duan Jiping suddenly leaned close and whispered, "Brother Zhua, have you heard of the extraterritorial battlefield?" Zhuo shook his head and said, "This is the first time I've heard of it." "What is this so-called extraterritorial battlefield?" Duan Jiping revealed an as expected expression and said in a low voice, "The extraterritorial battlefield is the battlefield opened up outside the borders of the 100 outer realms. And in this battlefield, there are numerous powerful extraterritorial creatures. Once you apply for the identity of a warrior in the extraterritorial battlefield, then you can fight with the numerous extraterritorial creatures in the extraterritorial battlefield." After Duan Jiping's narration, Zhuan finally had a preliminary understanding of this so-called extraterritorial battlefield. Chapter 41:12. There were all kinds of creatures in the extraterritorial battlefield. There were terrifying beasts that were not human, human cultivators from other mysterious spaces, and even some strange races. And these extraterrestrial beings only had one purpose in coming to the extraterritorial battlefield, and that was to kill. They had to constantly kill in order to obtain sufficient contribution points. There were many uses for contribution points. It could directly increase one's cultivation level, and it could also be exchanged for many precious divine medicines and divine pills that could not be exchanged in the outside world. It could even be exchanged for powerful astral weapons. Moreover, the chaotic energy in the extraterritorial battlefield is much denser than most realms, and it contains many ownerless chaos mineral veins. As long as you're lucky enough to find a chaos mineral vein, you'll be rich. In addition to chaos mineral veins, there are many extremely rare treasures in the extraterritorial battlefield. As long as you're strong enough and cautious enough in the extraterritorial battlefield, you'll be able to rapidly increase your cultivation level in a short period of time. The reason why my cultivation level was able to increase from the God Realm change to the Universe Tribulation stage in such a short period of time is mainly because I once roamed the extraterritorial battlefield and obtained many opportunities. That's how I was able to achieve this. Duan Jiping's gaze became rather fervent. He couldn't help but be very excited when talking about the extraterritorial battlefield. Hearing this, Zhuowen couldn't help but be moved. Although he didn't have much of an understanding of the extraterritorial battlefield, for Duan Jiping to achieve such achievements, it was obvious that the extraterritorial battlefield was indeed extraordinary. Brother Duan, as long as you apply, you'll have the qualifications to enter the extraterritorial battlefield? Zhuowen asked. Duan Jiping shook his head and said, although the extraterritorial battlefield is extremely cruel, there are many opportunities. It's a treasure land. The main reason is that it's controlled by the 5 invincible realms and the archaic heavenly Tao Academy. If you can't obtain the corresponding quota from these 6 forces, you won't be able to enter the extraterritorial battlefield at all. My luck is pretty good. Back then, I accidentally obtained a quota and entered the extraterritorial battlefield with the cultivation of the Fiend God change. Relying on the power of the Dark Chakra I went through a lot of hardships and finally achieved my current achievements. Brother Zhua, you haven't entered the extraterritorial battlefield before, but your cultivation level has increased so quickly. This shows that your talent is extremely amazing. If you're able to enter the Outer Realm battlefield to temper yourself, then your cultivation will progress even faster. Zhuowen nodded and silently looked at Duan Jiping. Since the extraterritorial battlefield required a quota to enter, Zhuowen clearly did not have the qualifications in his current state. Brother Duan, could the good fortune you mentioned be this extraterritorial battlefield? But I don't have a place to enter. Zhuowen smiled faintly. No, the fortune I'm talking about is the powerful succession I found in the extraterritorial battlefield. If he could enter that inheritance, he would receive a great fortune. As for your quota, I've already thought of it for you. Duan Jiping said mysteriously. He smiled but kept her in suspense. Zhuowen was startled and nodded. He did not ask about the quota. Since Duan Jiping had helped him settle the matter of the quota, it was obvious that he was not joking. Brother Duan, since you're riding the space-time beast this time, it's obvious that you're planning to head to the magical realm. The magical realm is not very far from the Nuar realm, so your trip. Zhuowen hesitated for a moment and asked in a low voice. When the Nuar realm was mentioned, Duan Jiping's eyes suddenly became sharp. I've heard rumors that the tomb of an expert suspected to be a cosmic Dharma idol has appeared in the magical realm, and someone has even found a Dharma idol divine fruit there. The Dharma idol divine fruit is the best supplementary item to condense a cosmic Dharma idol. If I can get the Dharma idol divine fruit, the time it takes to condense a cosmic Dharma idol will be greatly reduced, and my strength will rise to a new level. When the Dharma idol divine fruit was mentioned, Duan Jiping's eyes surged with passion. Obviously, he yearned for the Dharma idol divine fruit. Zhuowen secretly clicked his tongue. He didn't expect that the tomb of such an expert would appear in the Witch God realm. No wonder when he entered the space-time beast, he found that there were so many experts heading to the Witch God realm. It seemed that they were all here for the cosmic Dharma experts. They were all here for the tomb. Brother Zhua, this tomb will attract many experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth to fight for it. I've even heard that many geniuses on the Outer Realm heavenly list are also interested and will gather in the magical realm. And the geniuses who can be on the Outer Realm heavenly list basically have a Dharma idol token on them. They have a Dharma idol token for the extraterritorial battlefield. When we enter the tomb, if we encounter such geniuses, we can kill 1 or 2 of them and take the Dharma idol token for ourselves. Duan Jiping smiled faintly. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. He had to admit that Duan Jiping was really straightforward. Snatching the Dharma idol token was indeed a clean and efficient way. Compared to the Dharma idol token, Zhuowen was more interested in the tomb. The tomb of a cosmic Dharma idol expert was definitely not ordinary. This was a great opportunity for him. Brother Duan, the news you brought is too timely for me. I really can't thank you enough. Zhuowen cupped his hands and thanked him. Duan Jiping waved his hand and said, Brother Zhuo, you're too polite. There's no need to be polite between you and me. This time, you'll enter the tomb with me. This way you'll be safer. Zhuowen originally wanted to refuse, but Duan Jiping was really too enthusiastic and insisted on going together. Zhuowen had no choice but to agree. After the two talked for a while, they became much closer to each other. Seeing that it was getting late, Zhuowen said goodbye and left the Agrawud Pavilion. Before leaving, many practitioners in the Agrawud Pavilion looked at Zhuowen with a trace of awe and fear in their eyes. After all, the top expert of the great carefree realm had personally stood up for him. Obviously, this person's background was not small. How could they dare to look down on him? Zhuowen ignored these strange looks and went straight back to his room. Zhuowen had also roughly told Duan Jiping about Huxley. Duan Jiping promised Zhuowen that after entering the sorcerer realm, he would first follow him to the sorcerer's sacred city where the sorcerer clan was located. After settling down Huxley's clansmen, the two of them would go to the tomb together. Fortunately, the tomb was still in a closed state. It was said that there was still some time before it appeared, so Duan Jiping was not in a hurry. In addition, Duan Jiping had also said that this time he had also gathered several experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth to enter the tomb together. This way, the chances of obtaining the divine fruit of Dharma origin would be greatly increased. In order to prepare for the upcoming battle of the tomb, Zhuowen had to improve his strength as much as possible during this period of time. His cultivation had just improved not long ago, so it was obviously not possible to improve it again. Therefore, he spent the rest of the time on the art of array Tao. Chapter 41:13. Time gradually passed. Finally, after 2 months, Zhuowen, who had been in seclusion in his room to comprehend the heaven-mending catalog, slowly opened his eyes. In his eyes, there was a blazing light, as if he could see through the essence of anything. The so-called 10,000 laws of nature means that the art of array formation exists in the heart. With a thought, I can create an array. Everything is natural. Everything is free. Zhuowen muttered to himself, then let out a carefree laugh. Then, with a thought, he entered the macro world. He came to a place with lofty mountains and steep ridges. With a wave of his sleeve, an extremely powerful array phantom appeared in the void. The array phantom was formed by endless array patterns. It looked illusory, but the aura it exuded was extremely powerful. Zhuowen clenched his right hand in the air, and the originally illusory great array suddenly turned corporeal. The aura of the array skyrocketed several times, like the might of heaven, enveloping the entire macro world. Zhuowen waved his sleeve once again, and the seemingly solid great array collapsed. Countless array patterns disappeared into thin air, while a trace of smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He finally took the last half step smoothly, and his array formation reached the first heavenly layer of the eternal grade. Array formation and alchemy Tao were both broad and profound. Above the heaven-breaching grade was the eternal grade. There were 5 heavens in the eternal grade. The first heavens was the lowest, and the 5th heavens was the highest. The power of the array that could be arranged was enough to trap an expert of the great carefree realm. Compared to array formation, my progress in alchemy Tao is a bit slow. Zhuowen muttered to himself, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His array formation level had reached the first heavenly layer of the eternal grade, but his alchemy Tao level was still hovering around the 8th level of the heaven-breaching grade. Of course, this was also related to his opportunity. After all, he had obtained a powerful array formation book, the Heaven-Mending Catalog, which gave him a clear direction in array formation. Alchemy, on the other hand, was not so lucky. If he could also obtain this kind of opportunity, he believed that his achievements in alchemy would not be much weaker than his attainments in array formations. After Zhuan removed the array, Xiao Hei's divine sense suddenly rang out in his mind. Then, a terrifying sword light shot toward him from afar. The black sword light was like a bolt of black lightning. It flickered in the distance and appeared not far from Zhuan. Roar! The instant the sword appeared in front of Zhuan, an extremely loud and clear dragon roar was emitted from the sword. It whizzed out and resounded through the clouds. At the same time, Zhuan also saw the true appearance of the sword. The sword was 1 4 meters long,